Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 346. Terry Miller, disc golf guy, alongside Johnny V.
I am. I'm right here.
Rightfully so. This weekend, a gentleman just off the fairway of hole 17 had asked, he was asking me a few questions as we were moving down the fairway, getting into position for, I don't know if it was the second or the third round, and slightly older gentleman, and finally, the third or fourth question was, yeah, so how do you get to claim the title of the disc golf guy? I'm like, I don't know. I just claimed it, man. Like, anybody could.
First come, first serve.
Yeah, I just claimed it. So, yeah, that's how that works. And he was telling me how the first time he started playing was, I think he said in 78 or 79. And then he went on to tell me, though, that his PDGA number was 95 or 9600 or something like that. I'm like, well, you went a long time from the first time you played to when you signed up for the PDGA, because my PDGA number is 10,000 and something, so we're just a few hundred digits apart, and you started 20-some years before me. You were late. You definitely could not be the disc golf guy then, because you should have claimed that 20 years ago, my friend. So great people. I guess I can inadvertently segue right into fans. People... the presence, the excitement, the enthusiasm, everything that we love as in the media, everything that the players love, even tenfold, the sponsors, just everybody. Like, it's so, dare I say, as we get back to where we once were, at some point we're all going to be complaining. I think I was talking to maybe Brittany Dickerson or something. We're all going to be complaining like, oh, all these fans are in our way again, and the media crews have to run around with their cameras, and there's people everywhere, and the players are going to be waiting on fans. Like, that's all going to happen, but until then...
I already hear it in some of the cameramen. They're like, there's communication, and there's obviously supposed to be protocol, and every once in a while I hear from one of the cameramen like, hey, we need some crowd control on hole whatever, because so-and-so, this group of people just is not listening, and... that's a signal to usually talk to the tournament director or maybe Jeff Spring to get that crowd under control, which we haven't had to deal with for like a year.
No, we certainly haven't. And what I said over time and time again this weekend, there was a limited amount of VIPs and of people that could purchase passes. They still had to keep it to a certain number with being in phase 2 in the Pro Tour. And I said multiple times this weekend, this crowd is here. They're vibrant. They're ready. They're excited.
Well, if you have to pay to be there, I would think that you're going to be even more enthusiastic.
True.
As opposed to just being like, hey, you want to go check out that disc golf thing? Like, maybe walk around. No, these are people that are fans. These are people that they're craving the live disc golf.
Well, they were there. Everybody was excited, and all I said was, just think, if there wasn't a control, if there wasn't a cap or a limit right now, this place would be rocking. Like, it would have been insane, because there traditionally has been a lot of great fans out there. We have a lot of great fans at a lot of great venues. Do not get me wrong, but I feel like when the when the restrictions are fully lifted, we got new golfers
and new problems,
new fans. Things are going to be wild. We might finally start seeing those crowds and galleries that we've kind of always dreamed of having out at our live events. It's going to be incredible.
Those are the crowds that are normally reserved for the European Open.
Yeah.
But not this year. Did we talk about it last week? I don't remember if it was
so.
announced. No. For those of you that don't know and are living under a rock, because I think it was announced on like Wednesday or Thursday.
Something like that, yep.
The European Open has been officially canceled. So we will unfortunately not be seeing that major this year. Our players, it's still undetermined as to whether the players are going to travel overseas. I'm sure that's going to make a lot of decisions a lot tougher if you want to go to, if they're allowed to go to Sula or some of the other European events, because there's all sorts of stipulations right now due to COVID. I feel like I'm repeating myself from almost exactly a year ago when we were really unsure of what was going on. But unfortunately, European Open going to be pushed back another year to 2022.
Yeah. So, as you just mentioned, PCS Sula Open, as far as we know, is still on the schedule and is still fully planning on happening. I'm going to personally reach out to Seifert here. I'd love to know what him and the crew are thinking. And now, can there be something else that gets either scheduled or arranged or orchestrated so that our players have more incentive to still make the trip? I think that's to be determined. I think that's going to be the toughest part. Without having the major in conjunction with the idea of having the Disc Golf Pro Tour event taking place at the same time, we all know that traveling to an event of that nature for kind of a one-off event is going to be very difficult. That's why there's an entire swing that usually takes place. And without the major there, I don't worry that PCS Sula Open will continue in its glory and be an amazing event. I do think that will happen no matter what. I just worry that our players will not have, won't be incentivized enough or find enough return for them to go. I'm sure some still will. I just don't think it's going to be as many.
I mean, I don't know, man. Honestly, it all depends on the stipulations that you need to go through. It all depends on quarantining. It depends on whether they're allowed to go. If there's going to be any sort of
vaccine passport.
Thank you. That's actually what I was thinking of. There's a lot. Have you heard? You're on the ground.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of a lot of our players getting vaccinated? There's got to be some but with the way they travel, I don't
arranging
it seems like it would be much more difficult because I don't know if you have to be in your quote unquote home state now, or if you can just go to any. Well, if you can schedule one, because now everybody is eligible in the United States to get one if you're over 18, I believe.
Or 16, probably.
16 or 18. Yeah, 16, I think. If I'm traveling, can I just go to any CVS if they've got an open spot and say,
I think the short answer is yes. And I know, and all I can speak of, and I'm not going to name names, but I do know that a number of staff and personnel have, in fact, gotten either one or both. That much I know.
I do know at least one of our cameramen has.
I feel like most, if not all of them by now, are continuing to, and I know that's why I say some staff and personnel I know for a fact have, and they are doing it outside of their home states. So
okay.
I know that is happening. I'll be the first to admit I don't know if I don't think that's an official requirement of the Pro Tour. But it is something that I know a number of the staff and personnel have done. Yeah, that's what I can say about that. So yeah, you can get it done. I might go as I was going to say I might go as far as even saying that the Pro Tour is assisting anyone that does want to if they need it, but I don't know that a lot of assistance is required. I know any time in the last year and a half, anytime that testing was needed to be done, that the Pro Tour was, for lack of a better term, footing any kind of bill or necessary cost associated with it. So if players were going and getting it done, the Pro Tour was able to take care of that, which is incredible. That assistance was there if needed.
Sure.
So we shall see as to how it's going to unfold. Yeah, that is of course very disappointing with regard to not going to Finland. I don't know I know Finland and Norway are very different in terms of where they're at with regard to the whole COVID situation. So that's why I don't think we've seen any other announcements stating otherwise for the PCS. And I think it was on the show last week where I had mentioned that I just saw in an article that Taiwan, for instance, Thailand, is now opening back up to visitors. What's the word? Tourists. Thank you. Wow. Opening back up to tourists, but one of the requirements is vaccination. And that's probably something that will remain throughout. And of course, that's something that I specifically have already thought about because I'm hoping to make a return there along with some others in 2022. So there we go. All right. So tonight we are going to have Mahmoud Bahrani joining us, many or officially known as Mahmoud, but almost all of us call him just Mo. And he's so much more than just Mo. He's going to be joining us here in a few minutes. We're going to talk about some of
As
the.
if I don't get enough of this guy or enough of you.
I know.
I spend the little free time I have away from you two with you two. So this is great. I love this.
I don't know why you'd be doing it. If I were you, I would take the night off personally.
I just might. You and Mo can have a nice talk. You never get to talk to Mo. Mo talks to you all the time.
Wow, Mitchell, simmer down, or not.
Mitchell Hubbard.
Holy cow! Thank you, Mitchell, with a very significant super chat.
Yeah, with the Shiba dog wearing some samurai armor. He writes, "You're amazing," and drops a $50 super chat.
Thank you very much.
You are my best friend for the night.
That
Terry,
is incredible.
Gone. He was my best man at my wedding. I was his, but you know what? Tonight, Mitchell, you.
History gets rewritten with a $50 super chat. Let me tell you.
I might just cut out Mitchell's face and put him over all my wedding pictures of you.
That's a good idea. All right. Well, I think without further ado, we'll get going here. We're gonna check in with none other than Mahmoud. Hey, Mo, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, hi.
Hey,
Hi, guys.
I'm sorry. I thought about taking you in with Stinger 1, but I couldn't find it, so I just went with the fade.
You're killing me. You're killing me. We're not even live. Well, we are live, but you're not even doing disc golf.
No. That's what, for those of you, Mo obviously sits next to me. He is, and I always mix it up. You are the producer?
Producer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm director.
Producer, yeah.
I don't know these names. I always called myself the switcher.
Yeah, button pusher.
And Mo yells at me that, because sometimes I say whatever. He gets the names right, but he sits next to me and usually will tell me, okay, take that with Stinger 1, or maybe sometimes I'll pick a fade or a cut. But usually if we're cutting between cards, it's a Stinger 1. It's that DGPT Stinger. So I hear that a lot. Like, take it on Stinger 1. So
yeah. Shouts to Joe Canale for giving us that idea, because we were just fading, and I was talking to Joe, and he's like, it'd be a lot easier to keep track of what card we're on if you do a wipe or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's so smart. That's what producing is stealing other people's ideas and just making sure that they all come together.
Which is funny, because you and I have had these conversations privately a lot, and we each individually watched the Masters this weekend, and I was paying attention, and they didn't use anything like that when they're switching. It was all fades.
Yeah.
And the only time they ever used a stinger was for a replay, and it's just different. Every golf broadcast is different on every channel, but it's definitely we have our own flow at this point now, so it's good.
I think the Masters tries to be as old school as possible, right? They don't want I think they try to keep it as not fancy as possible. And that's why it's all dissolves. That's why it's all the graphics look like that from the 80s still. It's just kind of all very low key. They don't do it. I don't think they do anything fancier really than a shot tracker and the balls in the fairway. It's really
Correct.
not that fancy compared to a normal golf broadcast.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
And don't they pipe in fake birds or something too? I mean, come on.
So
they do.
Okay, so low key, no one watches Smashbox, right? I can just say, no, it's not going to change anything if I tell.
No one watches us. Don't worry, Mo.
Okay, good. So I was actually thinking for the Mid-America, because it's, does the world knows, right? Can I say this?
Yeah. Well,
we don't know.
No, I actually don't think honestly,
the world knows of the
course change.
Yeah, the venue change. If they don't, they do now.
Good. Yeah.
They do now. Guys, it's changing courses.
Yeah.
Exclusive, not so exclusive news. Mid-America is switching courses for this weekend.
I'm pretty sure we announced that. Okay.
I think so.
Okay, anyways.
We just did.
But for Harmony Bends, I was gonna, because Silver Series, I like to use those opportunities to explore and try different things. And I was actually gonna download generic nature sound and put it under Scenics and see if we could why not do it, just try it and see how it feels, because I would love if our Scenics had a little more body to them, because that's why we started putting music on them. But what if we I know it's not fake sound, right? Because if we had the ability to put nature audio behind our Scenics, we would 100% do that. We just don't. So why not fake it? That's the Scenics are just faking the fact that we don't have a blimp. So I don't know. Yeah. Always thinking about ways to fake things. But anyway, sorry.
I think I did at one point, honestly, put chirping birds behind one of our broadcasts years ago behind the scoreboard. I think I had that.
Yeah.
I found some and just put it down there. I don't recall which event. It's been many, many years, but I do vaguely recall doing that. So
I feel
Yeah,
like if you're going to cut to a scenic, it should be use the audio from that day it was shot. So I think of when I was trying to get some scenics last year, and all of a sudden I hear like a chainsaw just ripping in the background. From like here's a beautiful shot of the basket, and then you just have a chain just going in the
I,
background.
Texas State's whole seven just have the dog barking on
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
side there.
perfect,
Yeah,
perfect.
just make you feel like you're there.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So, Mo, let's before we get into some of the specifics about the growth, the development, the studio, and such. Let's just briefly talk about the personnel. Not exactly every single person's job and whatnot, but let's talk a little bit about personnel and maybe the expansion and where
yeah.
we even were before you, when it was just, we'll say, me, Johnny, and two other cameramen maybe a couple years ago. Kind
Yeah.
of talk about essentially who we all have here.
Yeah, so I last year we did two events. We did the Memorial and we did Waco, and I was on site for both of those. I was actually shooting the camera. And after shooting the camera, I would produce a show inside the circle. Yeah, inside the circle, which is basically like a post game reaction show where we would uh, kind of talk to the players that shot well, talk to the winners. It was basically like a studio show for disc golf. Um, and then I would edit it overnight and have it ready first thing in the morning. I thought it was a good idea. It was fun to do. I enjoyed doing it. It was just like very time consuming and very difficult to do, especially after like a full day of camera work. So yeah, we were doing that for a while, and then but like so while I was on the ground in at Memorial and at Waco, like the entire time I'm like hearing JVD and I'm like, oh yeah, we did this thing. He should run this thing, or oh man, I hope he's doing this, or like we should be like the whole time I'm basically I was trying to like tell JVD what assets are, and that's just not the camera people should not do that, right? It's not like the way that it, it's definitely like camera work is so hard and requires so much focus that like can't be dividing your focus away. So then after the shutdown, I think it was Sam or someone suggested like why doesn't Mo go to for DDO just so he can see how this whole thing is getting put together and we can figure it out. And then when I saw what you guys had, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. We can use it in all these ways. And after DDO, it was like, well, Mo, that was a lot easier having you there instead of having you on site. Why don't we just keep you there? And and so it was born. And then JVD and Geo in the basement at JVD's house, Geo doing graphics, NEV doing like 15 jobs essentially, but like mostly directing and doing replay, and then me producing, like just figuring out like what content is kind of like getting on screen. And then so with the control room, which is what I'm super excited about, is we get to fourth person now. So we've Geo has moved to replay, which um, it like it's insane what JVD does, guys. You guys, like it's crazy. No one like fastest fingers in the West. So JVD was doing replay while he was directing, which is impossible. Like no one would ever even attempt to do that. So now we have Geo who's doing replay. So instead of me watching all the cameras and being like, hey, JVD, get me Macbeth's drive on camera 4 or whatever. Now I can go to Geo and say, hey, get me Macbeth. I can say the same thing, except that's all Geo's doing. And now Geo can queue it up really quick and we can just have it ready to go for the next time that we have like a pause in the action. So we fill those spaces where the players are walking to lives, and we can get you like a more full kind of experience of the tournament instead of just like following one card around. So yeah, that's the main. So there's two advantages to the control. The first one is the fifth camera, which was already total game changer, and the second big change is having Geo operating replay, which this past week in Jonesboro Open, we were learning so much. It was the first time doing it, but like it was the same way it was when I went to JVD, when I went to went to the basement for the first time, and my eyes just got big because I was like, oh my god, the potential here! Like, there's so much cool stuff that we can do, and I'm so excited. And I felt the same way. Like, even if it didn't go perfect, and there, we messed up a few replays because we were trying something new that we wouldn't have messed up otherwise. But just like the ceiling went up like a few floors, so it just got me really excited all over again. Yesterday I called my friend who I still stay in close touch with at ESPN, who works on tennis, and we talked for legitimately an hour and a half, like just straight through. And he works on tennis. He like does Wimbledon, the Australian Open, and I was like, hey, this is like what's new in our control room. Like, how does this compare to your control room? What's your like interaction with your producer? And like, it was just we were just trying to figure out like the analogies and figure out like workflows and stuff that might work. Like, I don't know. I'm just a nerd for this stuff, and it was fun to talk to him. And yeah. So anyway.
No, obviously,
sorry,
I mean, I'm you and I can nerd out about a lot of this stuff because I became that way too once we started doing this broadcast. I saw all the cool tools that I've never looked at or touched because I've always been a computer guy and I've always put together computers and I know Windows inside and out, but suddenly I'm learning about audio and replay and all these other things. It opened up an entirely new avenue to nerd out on. But
yeah,
I mean, it was a natural fit, but so now that we have this, we're still technically in a temporary control room and studio.
Yeah.
The one that we have right now is being built 2 floors below where we are sitting. Last time I think Gary looked this weekend, and they've got all the walls framed up for us. They were talking about electrical, so figuring out how many amps and voltage that we need, how many
Ohm's law, baby.
Ohm's law, yeah. How many outlets and do you remember Ohm's law, Terry?
Yeah, something about. I don't know. I don't. I mean,
you were a stereo guy, so it makes sense that you would know that. You were a car stereo guy.
It depends if you're running speakers in parallel or in series. Yeah. Anyway, right. Divide it by 2, 8. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So ultimately, yes, the studio downstairs is being worked on. We're going to have all sorts of great capabilities, and we're gonna it'll just expand more opportunities and all that fun stuff. Is that what you would say, Mo?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it just took like I think we were pretty much like every time we did a show in your basement, that was as close to perfect as we could do. Like, it was always just like tight roping the whole time to make it like it just felt like tight roping the whole time. Like, there's gonna yeah, and now it's not tight roping. Like, even if the show looks the same, it's just like repeatable, that's great. Like, we don't have to do miracles each week, right? Like, we don't have to have like the best show every week. Like, I don't want to feel like every time we step in there we have to be perfect, because then you're gonna like it's inevitable. No one's perfect. You're gonna make mistakes. I watch the Bulls every single night, and they make 10 mistakes at least on their broadcast, and it's just having that extra layer with Gio and Chuck, it just makes it so that like our mistakes are quicker to get rid of. Our mistakes are going to be less in nature because people are in charge of less, and yeah, it just like it's great. We still haven't had. You're never gonna have a perfect show. Nothing's ever gonna be perfect. It's live TV. It's live sports. Like it's an imperfect thing. Like golf.
You mean like this weekend when I rolled through I think almost every camera we had because I was hitting wrong buttons because our cameramen I think what's the whole where they go down the valley up the big hill and then it's just over the crest of the hill.
12.
I think it was hole 12. Our cameraman had just came back for FPO. They switched positions on me, so I was shooting with camera 4 and 5, and I was on 5, and I should have hit 2 because camera 2 took the catch position, but I hit 4 and then panicked. I was like, oh crap! And then I meant to hit 2, but I hit 3 because I panicked, and then finally I got to 2, so it was like flash, 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 and it was like, okay, cool, we're there now, and I was very frustrated at myself, but. That those are unfortunately, and I think I fixed that. I've changed my button habits a little bit now after that show, so I'm excited to see what that I don't accidentally take wrong cameras. So, which is good because our cameramen deserve to be on when I tell them they're on.
Yeah, and so you briefly touched on as well the fact that not only Gary, who's been or otherwise known as Gio, or Gary to the O, shortened to then just Gio. He has
his full name is like Oberenberger.
Oberenberger. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Gary
I literally,
Oberenberger.
yeah, I had to write it down the other day, and I was like, dang, I never even looked past the O. Like I was so
His,
shocked to see the
I mean,
rest of
his
the name.
first name is actually Gary Ananopoulos,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's really no, just kidding.
No, he very early on in meeting him and having him help me at my leagues many years ago, I nicknamed him to Gary to the O, and then then that even gets shortened to just GO more often than not. So he has been fulfilling numerous roles and functions here in the studio, the basement studio, forever.
Well, he started out as a cameraman.
Yes, correct.
Literally, he told, I think he told Mo the story. He told Chuck the story recently that he was a backup cameraman at an event. Like, we didn't realize we were going to need him. We throw him in on the job. He does a decent job. And then we're like, cool, here's a guy we can rely on because Gary's a very smart and reliable guy. And we just start using him for cameras and We bought a Steadicam vest for that guy because he would walk around and he was doing solo cameras, and at the time we didn't have bailouts, so we just said, cool, we'll buy you a Steadicam. And so he would work the Steadicam, and he
looked like a transformer.
He did. Everyone called him a transformer on the course. And then we decided he would be more useful down here at one point, and he started just helping out with some graphics. And then he did one event, he did some replay, but then that was short-lived. And now he has moved from graphics, like our official graphics guy, over to our official replay guy. And not even our official replay guy for much longer.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at, is just that Gio has performed those tasks, and now, as you just mentioned, Mo, we've got Chuck, who has many years with studio and overall production experience and background, and he has now come in, and now he is working the graphic side of things as well. So the whole point of what we're getting at here is the expansion is slowly continues, and then next on our overall overarching checklist is going to be a dedicated audio person, and that's in the works as well, right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense as the next person in there. Just smooth everything out. It's like, yeah, just smooth everything out. Audio is really difficult, so yeah.
Yeah, and I'll expand on that briefly for you. Audio is difficult, as many of you already have experienced. Audio is difficult because you have multiple cameras, sometimes facing the same direction, but coming from opposite sides. So what could be really loud coming from the road, the catch camera might be facing the other way, and therefore, looking at the same thing, but a very different volume to it, and sound and noise. And then you have your announcers in the booth. Then you have a sideline reporter, potentially. Then you have
like all the music and stuff.
All the musics, and then you have commercials. Like, those are all different audio opportunities, and the fact that every one of you, and then sometimes signals can be bad. So every one of you have experienced
add that different camera types with different microphones, with sometimes internal or external.
Shotgun mic versus stick mics.
It's constantly changing. It's a lot of fun for me, guys. Trust me.
So what we're saying is we recognize that those are all opportunities or instances of challenge that we're also looking to smooth out, as you said, Mo.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think of things like what could we add in if we had an audio person? Like, we could do more in terms of like audio on the course, in terms of like listening to players talk a lot more. Because right now we're usually just guessing, like, oh, they're talking, that looks funny, and turn up the thing. But like, if we had someone listening, we could be like, hey, they could have an audio person saying, hey, let's listen to this, and then we don't have to guess anymore. We could have the audio of the disc coming out sound a little bit better, because maybe we have a boom mic on. There's just all sorts of things. Like, it can get bigger and bigger and bigger, as big as you want it to. It's
one of my favorite times with audio actually are tea times, because we usually have because we usually have a camera up front and a camera, usually 3 cameras, one in the catch, but I don't mind if I get a little bit of double audio from the cameras, because it sounds actually kind of cool. Like, it almost sounds like a speaker when the guy's announcing, like, and now Ricky, why Saki? And it's only because there's two microphones there that are just a hair unsynced. So I sometimes I'll leave that in there because I just think it gives it almost a more full sound as opposed to just an announcer talking. So that's one of the little tricks I've learned is to leave the camera audio on both cameras on during their announcements.
All right. Well,
little tricks here and there. So whoever's going to take our job, I want you to know that. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Mo,
Yeah.
answer this one for me, because when we started, way back when we started, 2014, as we just celebrated 7 years ago, Smashbox started with one camera.
Wow.
Thanks. With one camera and lots of limitations, of course. Of course, getting to then eventually locking in with the Pro Tour, we worked into 2 cameras. I don't even know at what point we got to 3 cameras, even when that was. Anyway,
that was
you now have 5 cameras.
4, 5.
Oh boy, yeah.
Right?
It's the first time I felt alive in a long time, Terry.
But
5
even
cameras.
with 5 cameras, there are possibilities and times when there's nothing to show.
I swear
Right?
to God.
Just wait. Let Mo answer.
Oh,
Is
sorry.
there nothing to show? Is that possible?
Yeah. So that happened this weekend where we were just like, me and JVD were pulling our hair out. It was like for a couple consecutive holes, we were like, how is this happening? That I have like one camera pointed to the ground. It was because it was a confluence of factors. We had like rain coming in, so the cameras were bagging up. We had a backup, so this camera was just kind of like standing down. Like, sometimes it'll happen, but I mean, for the most part, like at the beginning of the MPO and once we get flowing with the FPO, it's all action all the time. It's great. Like there's always something going on with. I mean, it's still a possibility that they will all be walking at the same time, but it just becomes less and less likely. Like with 2 cards, it's actually very likely that you will have 2 cards walking at the same time. It's not.
And I'm only driving. I'm only driving this point home because, understandably, for many years, people were screaming that, well, we need 18 cameras. We need 36 cameras out there. And it felt like every time we added a camera, there was still multiple instances where it's like, guess what? We might have 7 cameras out there. And if there's 3.5 or 4 groups all moving and not throwing at the same time, we still don't have anything to cut to. And that was live.
Well, no, that's where I'm going to disagree with you. Because we always have something to cut to. We should always have something to cut to. Because like even if this didn't happen live, now with this replay op, like now there's no excuses. Now it's like
correct.
If a shot happened on another card, like we should have it and we should be going to it.
Another card that we're covering.
Yeah,
not necessarily like the 5th card.
The card, not the 13th card that just got an ace.
You can't ask for Brody if he's on like the 6th card, and then well, how come I can't see him? No, we're covering 2, maybe 3 cards.
Honestly, the dead spot is the hardest card to cover, quote unquote, is kind of like the 3rd, 4th, 5th card. That's actually harder than the card like the 16th card or something, because like the way it's set up. It's easier for me to send the fit, like on day 1, for example, when everyone's spread out on all these different cards, it's a lot easier for me to send the camera to someone who's finishing up, because that camera already has to take their break anyways, than to a camera, or then to a card on the 4th card or something. Because then I don't want to get them so far away from Tournament Central, and then they have to go back, and it's like, so yeah, there's a few dead spots still, but for the most part, I mean, you saw. I was so proud of our broadcast on Friday, even if it wasn't like perfect, because it was so. I really felt like we took advantage of the 5th camera. We saw Ben Calloway. We saw his last 3 holes. We saw Johnny McRae when he was making a run. He missed 2 putts. That was kind of like the story of his event. He missed those 2 putts. And now he said 8 instead of 10. Like he said, how different is the event for Johnny McRae? He makes those 2 putts on 17, 18 or something, and then he's at 10 position all weekend. And and Ben, we got that really cool moment where Noah was like giving him a really chill out. You make the putt, and he made the eagle there. So we're out of excuses now, dude. Like with the replay op, like we 100% should be showing you. Like the reason we show out to a scoreboard is usually because. Sorry, go for it.
We were just going to.
Am I putting the expectations too high? I feel
No, not at all. You're just your internet connection is proving how difficult audio and video can be sometimes.
Yeah, you went super choppy on us.
It went really choppy for
really?
when you were talking about.
Maybe tell your significant other to quit
possible.
Halo streaming or whatever she's doing.
I don't know. Are you downloading anything? Are you uploading VOs for me to cut?
Are you watching something?
Oh, she's like, yeah, I got the latest cat documentary all lined up for you.
No.
It's not her. She
Sorry,
says.
go for it.
No.
Okay.
That's it. What were you saying, Terry?
I was just gonna say, again, this has all been part of the evolution. Is really kind of my point here, and it's been growth. It's been slow and steady, and it's come with having a subscriber base. It's come with money infused. It's come with more support. It's a product of all of those things, and I just got a chuckle out of for so long when people, like I said, always used to beg for more and more cameras, which we understood and we wanted more as well. But until we needed more cameras, we needed more eyes, we needed more cameramen, and honestly, the truth be told, replay, to the degree that we're now at as of recent, replay just was not a feasible, realistic option.
Yeah,
and just people.
It wasn't a feasible, realistic option like
until Saturday morning. Yeah,
yeah, like it's like I can't. Yeah,
that's like kind of my whole point. Yeah,
exactly. Like yeah, it's really tough to. The hardest shots to get are when they're, because we're also operating all on steady cam, so our camera has to like dip, go down, walk to the next spot. So it's really hard to just kind of one continuous shot all these things. So we have to cut each time. We have to, like, unless you want to see a camera dipping and walking, like we have to kind of clip each shot, which with JVD, I just can't ask him to do that. It's impossible. I can't be like, hey, that's on Macbeth on 5, that's Macbeth on 4, or that's Waisaki on 3. That's like, it's just not, you can't possibly do that. And we still probably can't do it with Gary. That's still too much for one person, but at least it's closer. Now I can be like, hey, that's Macbeth, get me Macbeth's upshot, then get me Ricky's upshot on a separate thing. And then like, so now it's a little bit closer. Like it was too much to ask of JVD, and he pulled it off admirably. But like, yeah, there's still some limitations. I don't want to make it sound like, hey, now it's the Master Sunday, but we definitely got closer to being able to do some cool stuff.
Well,
I'm so excited about replay. I'm most excited about JVD is going replay to replay now, because we couldn't do that before, and now we can. So now Gary can queue up a replay, and I can have JVD queue up a replay, and we can go from 2 cards that we didn't cover live so we can show non-live play to non-live play, which we could not do before. So we always have to go back to live to kind of reset, and now we can go. I can show you the Johnny McRae that happened a minute ago, and then I can go to Ben Calloway's team, which also happened a minute ago. Before we couldn't do that before. It would have to be, unless they were on the same camera, we couldn't really do that. So
yeah, that's what Mo just said there was that, yeah, we can go from like one replay that we had stocked up to another replay that we had stocked up, and that would definitely, that was very, while it was kind of possible, it was very difficult, and usually we had to buffer it with like a scoreboard, like, hey, let's go to a scoreboard real quick, and then we'll cut and go to another replay. Well, now Gary can queue one up, and then I can queue one up as well, because even though Gary is our replay guy, I still do have to do some of the replay. Usually what we call it the instant replay. Someone hits a 30-foot putt that we want to replay. I have a button that goes, boom, replay that right now. And then it brings in the, it does a whole trigger of a bunch of stuff. It like mutes the booth audio so that they can talk over it again, and they're not hearing, you're not hearing them double from what they were 5 or 10 seconds ago. And it just does a bunch of stuff for me. And I can kind of cue that up, and we all kind of split we all split our duties, and we all kind of do a little bit of each other's jobs, which is kind of nice. Like Gary does a replay, and he also keeps track of cameras. He knows a lot of the courses, and he's watching a lot of the cameras. Mo, I'm doing some graphics, and we got Chuck doing graphics, and it's all a lot of working very, very, very well together, and we're only getting better.
I don't do anything. I just mostly tell JVD
Not
and Chuck and
true.
Gary to push buttons faster. That's my main thing. Like, you know that scene in this? Did you guys watch The Simpsons?
Vaguely,
I
yeah.
mean, they're predicting our everyday future, right?
There's this one great episode where Homer goes to work for Hank Scorpio, and he like works in like a fancy power plant, and he's like the manager. He's like he gets promoted, so he walks in, and there's these three dudes, and he's like, "Hey, could you guys work harder?" And he's like, and one of the guys is like, "Sure thing, Mr. Simpson," and they just keep working, and they work harder, and Homer's like, "Just call me boss," and it's like clearly he's doing nothing. It doesn't really, it's not actually the guys are doing all the work. So anyway, that's how I feel a lot of the time. But
That's
yeah, you
not
guys are great.
that's not true. Mo does a lot of work. Mo obviously preps all the graphics that we see, and he preps a lot of or almost all the VOs and stuff like that. And the other thing that having this this graphics op person is going to be very helpful with, that Mo is in love with, is being able to build, as he calls them, melds, or just highlight packages. So what we saw from Katrina
Melts.
like it melts together. Okay, I thought you kept saying meld, so I was like, whatever.
No.
Like on day 2, we saw a highlight package of Katrina and all her putts, and just being able to say, hey Gio, get me the last 4 or 5 putts from Katrina, because that round she putted phenomenal, and that was the story. Is her putts from like 25 to 35 feet were unstoppable, and so it took us 2 tries. The first try wasn't so hot, but that was Gary learning, and then the second one it looked great. And it's just it's those little things that we just keep keep pushing the boundaries, and and bringing in a lot of what we can.
So
Yeah,
Mo,
definitely.
slow Mo, so Mo. Real quick, just let's quickly look ahead to this weekend. Well, first question has been asked on the board, which is, people say, hey, what's better? Should they be watching the final day on Disc Golf Network or YouTube? So I guess from a quality perspective, and then is there any other advantage outside of quality, regardless of your answer, that you would lean someone one way or another? Of course, you tell them to put it up on both, so we get viewership on both. But
yeah, that's interesting. That's a really interesting question. 100% sure it is. I mean, it's the same quality, same everything, going to the 2 different sources. Uh, Disc Golf Network is nice for me because it's just like on my phone. It's just like super easy to click that and cast it.
okay,
YouTube takes like a few more clicks. But then again, YouTube is like insanely easy, and it has the chat right there if you're into that kind of thing.
yeah,
Disc Golf Network doesn't have the chat, so maybe that's a bummer for some people if you don't want to see like
yeah,
people spamming a chat board. So I don't know. I think it's kind of just pick whatever is more comfortable for you. I don't think there's a real difference in terms of quality. If you want to watch on DGN, just because that's where all your disc golf stuff is, that's like I think that's chill. And if you want to watch on YouTube because you enjoy being part of the comments and you enjoy like the YouTube interface because it's like obvious because it's a multi-billion-dollar company, like the YouTube interface is pretty intuitive and everyone knows how to use it, then that's also like a pretty good option. It's cool that you have both.
okay. So let's look ahead briefly to this weekend, and maybe even just to extrapolate a little out of that would be the idea of the exclusivity that we're seeing for the Silver Series, and maybe the thought process to that. But let's start with this weekend. You without authorization, you made the exclusive announcement that I'm just kidding. You made the announcement, or we learned that this weekend is moving from Harmony Bends. The course is, I believe, largely in or near a floodplain, or it just floods very easily. So with the inclement weather, we kind of knew this might happen. They had a backup plan all along, and unfortunately, the backup plan has to be enacted because everybody loves this property and it's one of the highest rated courses in the world. But thankfully, they were thinking ahead. So we have all of that. But what should somebody expect from a Silver Series Sunday broadcast? What should people's expectations be, and what's the logic behind it?
Well, I mean, it looks a lot like a normal final day broadcast. It doesn't look that much different. We start with the lead card instead of the chase card, just because Silver Series tend to be smaller. There tends not to be as deep a field, so it's usually kind of like the focus is more on that lead card. Um, but it's otherwise it's the same broadcast. I think Silver Series are fun for us, all of us in Milwaukee, because we take chances. Like we do some stuff that we wouldn't do on a premier event. Like we test out a lot of stuff in Silver Series. That's one of the big reasons that we wanted to do Silver Series this year, was to have like a kind of like a testing ground. Like it was super helpful to try things. So like this weekend, like the Vintage Open weekend, we tried a form review, which we had never done before, like a live form review, and that could have gone horrible. Like we had no idea, but it went well enough that we were like, okay, cool, that works. That's a thing we can do now. This weekend at Mid America, I think we're gonna try putting music underneath the drone flyovers and see if that's obnoxious or if it's cool, and then we'll see how that goes. I kind of want to try putting up the live leaderboard for like just the leaderboard up for the whole time. I want to try it. Like, why not? See what it feels like, and if it feels like it'll feel awkward or feel not awkward, and we'll know right away. And it's
You're gonna
just the stuff to try. So
you just made a lot of people's day. That's always been one of the big debates online and in the past. We've done things like we used to put the leaders up or the card scores up as a bar at the bottom, and then as of last year, I think it was the middle of last year, we stopped doing that because the goal for us is to bounce around so much. So if we're watching a card and on the bottom it says Eagle, Ricky, Paul, and Simon, and suddenly we jump over to Casey White's score isn't anywhere. So we use the graphic to do that. If the score is on the bottom, it makes our graphic sometimes a little bit redundant. Plus, with the way our cameramen shift around, it's very difficult for us to set up a shot. So, hey, suddenly our camera 3, we find out Casey White's on a heater. We're like, hey, camera 3, go catch him. That's an entire process now for me to go like, oh crap, do I need to change that graphic? Do we need to bring this in? We need to remove it from here. So if we're gonna, and you're right, and that's what these events are for. So if we start putting the leaderboard on the scores or the card scores or however we're looking at doing that's interesting. And a lot of people are going to like that, and some people don't. Some people really like the really clean look we have right now with almost no graphics other than the transparent bug.
I like I personally prefer the clean look. Like
that's wrong.
Aesthetically, yeah. Well, aesthetically, I just prefer it, and I think we put up. I mean, the score goes up like every 10 seconds. The score, like each player's individual score goes up, and we put up a scoreboard. Gosh, we put up a scoreboard. It can't be more than 5 minutes. We go without putting up a scoreboard. It can't be. There's no way. It might be faster. It might be less than that even. So that's if you watch traditional ball golf, it also looks like that. It looks like incredibly clean for the most part, like shockingly clean. Like actually, because I remember we were talking about this, and I was like, maybe they do have it up, and I just don't watch enough. And then I like clicked on it, and I was like, oh dang, like this look, except for the opaque or the like logo bug in the corner, like says CBS, like you can't hardly tell that there's any graphics on the screen at all. So yeah, I think it's like a philosophical thing that it's worth trying. Let's see how it goes, and yeah, I don't know, we'll try it. Like the thing that really shook me was the Masters had a transparent leaderboard that in the bottom right that they had up the whole time. And I remember we saw it on the first day, and I texted JVD texted me, or I texted JVD, I forget what the order was. And I was like, yeah, but there's no way they're doing that the whole weekend. That's probably just for Thursday or Friday, because it's like,
or just the internet broadcast or something weird, yeah,
or something like that. But then the live broadcast Sunday evening, they had it up, and I was like, yeah, clearly we know who the leaders are. Why do you still need that? And they're still doing it, which leads, I mean, they don't do anything on accident. Like there's got to be some research. There has to be some discussion with some very smart people who decided to do that. So, there's got to be something to that. So
they saw our broadcasts from last year.
Yeah, I understand the pros and cons. I feel like I understand most of the pros and most of the cons to it. I'll say very selfishly from a commentator
Commentator
perspective, yeah,
Yeah.
like I like being there. I always know, there's something crazy that happened in the previous hole, and there was a 2-stroke swing, and now does Ricky have the lead by 2, or was it cut down to 1? And like, if it's just there on screen in front of us, there's never a question. Like you just said, well, it's obvious who's leading. Is it though? Like, do you know
No,
if you?
no, it's not obvious. I never said it's obvious. I never said it's obvious. I just said that. Well, I just said that we put up the scores enough. We put up each individual person's score, right, when you just put up the bug, and then we put up the full scores up, like, every couple minutes, especially on the final day we really hammer it. So like, I don't know.
And,
Sorry, Terry, I
No,
interrupted
it's
you.
fine.
No,
No,
and there's also logic behind it because, as Mo always says, it's imagine watching. Imagine Paul hits a really big putt. We cut over to Paul's really big putt, but he had a great drive as well. Do we go back and just show the drive after we show the putt? Like, not usually, because we know he got there. We don't need to, there's no surprise in it. So imagine watching that live leaderboard, and suddenly you see Paul's score go from -12 to -10. He takes an eagle. Well,
We're going to show it to you.
We're going to show it to you, but you already know what's happening. So when we bring it to you, it's no surprise anymore. Like, there's the thought of it being quote unquote live or close to live is gone. You know it's coming, and there's a disconnect in the viewership. Like, now maybe you could say, oh, I'm really excited to see that eagle he's going to throw. God, I hope they show it to me. There's two different ways to think about it as to how you really want to approach that. So, and I don't know how the Masters did it because I didn't watch. I don't know if the scores ticked up before they show it, or they have enough. They've got enough resources where they could wait. They have somebody that's probably sitting there waiting to push a button. Did they show it? Did they show it? Did they show it? Click. All right, there it changes. I don't know how that works or how quick they are. So
yeah, there's no way. I have no idea how they do that. Like, exactly, because like, there's no way that someone is physically doing that for the live scores. Like, it's all automated.
You'd think so, but you never know. Like, if you want things done, at the time you want them, there's somebody to click a button, and they can afford it.
Real quick, just to interject, Mike Janish, is on the board and says, I worked with a sports producer for a bit, and they at least used to have gaps between showing scores to increase view times, which is funny because you sometimes, even today, could turn on a baseball game and you're like, what the hell's the score? And you're waiting and you're like, oh, I'm going to sit here and wait until I know the score, and then I can walk away or go to the bathroom or whatever. So, I mean, but we're also, just like he said,
in the day. There's no way, like, everything has a score on it now.
Exactly. And just like he said, like, we're all consuming sports very differently than we did 5 or 10 or 30 years ago. So, and it's like, if you couldn't get the answer fast enough, you probably go to just MLB.com and you're like, oh yeah, it's right there, right? It's the bottom. There's 3 pitches so far, and I know it's the bottom of the 6th.
Yep. And that's our U-disc.
Yeah.
Tara, I would never do that to our viewers. That sounds like gaming the system there. I don't like that. I closed all my tabs, by the way, and I turned off all my other things. Is it better now?
That's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. Now we gotta let you go.
I'm sorry if it was a little loud. Oh shoot! Dang.
No.
Well, it's been a lot of fun in the sense that we're all learning. We're all learning together. Mo is easily the most experienced when it comes to like a wide professional production setting.
And it's funny because almost none of us have a lot of sports broadcasts. I mean, Mo, you were at ESPN, but you didn't do live sports. You were mostly part of the show The Jump. Chuck has been a studio worker, but he's a lot of times done. He was saying how he was a lot of news broadcasts and things like that. And I don't know if he touched much live sports, but so all of us, and Gary and I said this, I think Sunday night when we finished up or whatever. It's like, it's kind of interesting. Like, none of us really have ever did live sports, but here we all are now.
Yeah, I mean, I did raps, which is really close to, like, raps is basically like halftimes, and yeah, I tweeted out that this is the first time I felt alive. I might have told you that first time I felt alive since doing double mirrors on college football Saturday, which is basically when you're doing so when you're watching ABC, depending on where you are in the country, you watch a different game. So like, if you're in Wisconsin, you'll watch the Badgers game, and if you're down south, you watch the LSU game if they're both happening at noon. So we would do halftimes for those games, and we'd do halftimes for both of them though. So like, you have to cut the LSU halftime you have to do both, and it's like very tricky, and the timing is really awkward, and it's like, that's where I that's where I've heard a lot of like, Bahrani, I need my highlight in 10 seconds. And that's where that a lot of that comes from, is because it's so fast paced. And but it gets your heart pumping. It feels amazing. It's like it's the only way to feel alive, you know? So yeah, that's what having the fifth camera like made me feel like, where I was like, oh man, Callaway just hit that putt. That was great. Get that. Oh man, Macbeth just did that. That was cool. Yeah, let's get that. Oh, hey, like, we gotta go back to live to get Chris Dickerson just hitting the circle two putt. He's had like 10 straight birdies. Like, that's cool. Like, I love that. I love that, like the fast when everyone's being great and all the players are just giving us like all these highlights, and there's all so much cool stuff to show, and we're just bouncing around like that stuff. I love that. So yeah, live sports control room is nothing like. I mean, I did the WNBA for a season, and for the playoffs. So, like, that was the closest I got to like true live. Like, it was literally live sports. We were producing the live game, and I was in the basically doing Gary's role, kind of. I was doing like one half of Gary's role, where I was telling someone else to hit buttons, but I was doing the content. So like if I needed a Maya Moore package, I would build the Maya Moore package. And while this guy was like, my EVS op was doing, like, he spin the wheel, like you have a wheel, JVD.
I do.
Like, he would be, yeah, like spinning the wheel to like go back. They basically do replays the same way that we do, where except they're doing everything with the wheel. So the director will say like cue red or whatever, and that's one of the channels. And then he'll hit play. Our replay op will hit play, and he'll turn the wheel like for slow mo stuff. That's how they, like, when there's like instant replay and they're looking at like, did a ball go out of bounds or whatever. That's a person literally physically spinning a wheel back and forth. And yeah, that was just like incredibly fun. I love doing live sports. There's not really another thing like it. So yeah, I don't know. It's great.
Yeah,
I wanted to get faster, man. It's like once you get the hit, you just need more of it. You know, like I just need more stuff now to look at.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know from our board and listeners whether they think that, because obviously post-production is different than live. We've said it 1,000 times. Our goal is to show as much golf as we can, hopefully, and with a story behind it. And we're not
not as much golf.
As much golf with a story.
Golf.
Yeah, as much golf with a story. And like, it does Casey have 3 putts in a row, 3 birdies in a row from outside the circle. We want to be able to show that. But we're not going to show. We'll say we're not going to show Simon if he's had 4 pars in a row, even if he's on the second card. Like, just because he's, if he's just.
Well,
playing
I would though if he's Simon, if it's a Simon and it's his first event back and he's missing, but like, there's always something where
there's always a story, but
like,
if you're Terry and you're good in the booth, you can probably come up with a story for almost any player, even if it's a story about how you met them when they were a junior. I mean, there's always a story for Terry, but I'd be curious to know whether or not they think we show, I'll say, the right amount, if we should be showing more golf shots, more quicker, or whether we're going too fast. Like, that's a general role or question that we have. Like, do we not need, because we're going to show golf at our own pace, but is it fast enough? Because the big complaint many years was, I don't want to watch these people walk down a fairway. And we still watch that a little bit because it builds drama and this and that.
But now we do it on purpose. That's the difference.
And now it's on purpose.
We want to do it.
Not because we have to.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm curious as to what viewers think.
Yeah, and I think it's that balancing act, because we've heard a little bit of both of, hey, stay on this card because that's where I'm invested, or hey, show us more of these other cards because we want to see other players. I don't know that you're ever going to get a 90-10 split on that. I think it's always going to be 55-45, and even those percentages could flip-flop in favor of the other the next day. And then you're still going to always get the inevitable, hey, but like my third cousin's, grandpa's caddy who used to live next to my neighbor, yeah, they're on like the 9th card. Could you cover that? It's like, no, we're still, but it's their first ever pro event. Cool. We're still, they're on the 9th card. They're not part of the storyline right now, unless they have some other,
Yeah, I can guarantee you're not missing a shot that is pertinent to the lead almost always. Like, we're pretty good. At least I do my best to make sure that we don't miss like things that are directly affecting who will win the event. So, like, we might miss, like, if the 4th player on a card is really falling off, we might miss their shot. at the expense of something else on another card that's like more relevant. But like it is, if you're watching a card and you're like, I'm invested in this card, I'm invested in these people on this card, and it's the card that's vying for the lead, you're gonna see them for sure. If you're invested, yeah, if you're invested in like James Conrad, but he's in 12th, maybe that's less likely to happen. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same thing on Master Sunday. Like, are you if you're invested in DeChambeau, they didn't show him until 18, right? They showed a few of his shots, but like if you're a huge DeChambeau fan, like yeah, you could watch him because it's the Masters. And you can go to the app and you can watch all the shots literally. But like in the live broadcast, they only think showed his drive on 18 and a few others. So because his drive on 18 is incredible because he gets to hit the big draw, like it goes like 50 feet past everyone else. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's really, and I make a million mistakes a show. Like I don't want to make it seem like we're not, like I don't want to make it seem like we're perfect or even close to perfect. We make so many mistakes. We make like just an astonishing number of mistakes. So like it's actually a joke that I'll say like, oh, that's fine, like which meaning like it wasn't perfect, but it's fine. And I'll say that like 100 times. Like it's really bad. I just kind of say it over and over again. But it's not perfect, but it's fine.
We all say it.
And, yeah, and it's like, yeah, we're all just doing our best, and I guarantee you, we're not doing anything to like mess with you. Like we're not like, oh
I
man.
am.
Like,
I'm specifically there's like 3 people on the internet that I know what they like, and I'm avoiding it. Like I know they hate it when I do something, and so I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guarantee you, we're doing our best. So yeah.
Well, not entirely, and that leads to my next point, which is I love it when Mo asks something of me, whether it's I'm in the booth or I'm in the field, and they'd be like, like they do it on in such and such sport on such and such network. Don't you watch that? I'm like, no, I don't. How do they do it at halftime on the college
Bulls,
sports day? I don't know because I don't watch that shit.
I don't watch sports.
Yeah.
So when it's funny when it's funny but not. You make a reference to other sports broadcasting because that's your life and you. And I likely didn't consume or don't consume whatever you're referencing. Yeah. And so when you're like, how do you not know what that is? Like, because I don't watch that. Anyway.
You know what that is, Ter? You know what that is, Ter? That's just bad producing. That's all that is. That's just
no, I mean, it's great you have the reference point, and maybe plenty of other people do get that reference point, but often I don't, and I hear the frustration in you, and it's hilarious.
No. Yeah, that's just on me. That's on me to be better.
Those are usually those are ad reads. Let's be honest. That Terry doesn't understand.
There's a bunch of things.
I know.
Mo, I'll keep doing wrong.
Yeah. Mo, here's a question that somebody asked, and I think I've answered this before, but Ryan Hunt says, why does the DGN offer the most important round for free instead of the first? Why are we live on Sundays and not Fridays?
Yeah.
Like what is the mentality or the thought process behind it? Because you're the guy that honestly is making a lot of those decisions. I know with help from Jeff and Todd and Seth and us, but ultimately a lot of it is your call.
Oh gosh, I mean that's a lot of pressure, JVD.
It is. I'm gonna throw you under the bus.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That is more of like a Jeff like CEO type question. For me, like I think the final day live is really cool because it's the I hate to use this word, it sounds very like hoity-toity, but like it's like the collective effervescence, right? Like it's like getting the community around this like one big moment is really cool. And if we can get people to buy into that and then try and teach, not try and teach, but try and like say like, hey, this collective moment is happening every day. Like it doesn't just happen on Sunday, it happens on Friday and Saturday too. Like I think that's really cool. That has potential to be really cool. Like I was listening to a podcast with Steve Dodge. This is related, I swear. I was listening to a podcast with Steve Dodge talking to Charlie on the Upshot, and Steve said like, if you could watch something live or watch something in tape delayed post, you would almost always choose live. And I was like, I just like completely disagree. I love Steve and I agree with most of what he says. I was like, that's actually incorrect. Like you're right, but you're actually kind of wrong. It's not about live versus post. It's about like where is the community, right? Like where is the communal feel. So like the community is always is around when Jomas comes out. That's kind of that's the moment for our community. Oh, Jomas came out. Let's go watch it together as a group. And at least on Sunday, we can kind of shift that to, hey, this is happening right now. Everyone's watching together. Let's all watch it together as a group. That's the collective moment is happening at that time. And that's all we're trying to capture in sports a lot of times. It's like the only thing left, really, where everyone's kind of sitting around the campfire or whatever, watching the same thing. There's very few things that can do that still. It's like Game of Thrones and sports. Like those are it's like the two things pretty much that are left. And even sports is kind of falling away, like with like your regional broadcast, you'll DVR it at this point. You just watch it when you get home because like it's not. But that makes it hard because the whole point of sports is that you get to interact with people. Like that's the whole point of it is you can talk to everyone else about the cool thing that you're watching. If a Bulls game, if I miss it live, I probably am not going to go back and watch it. And I love the Bulls. It's the only thing I like really am super invested in. I still won't watch it back later because the whole point of me watching it live is I want to be part of like all these people that are watching it together on Twitter. I want to talk about like, oh man, Denzel just missed that shot. Denzel's killing us. Kobe White's got 25. This is gonna be a breakout game for Kobe. Like we can all have those discussions in real time. So yeah, I don't think it's so all that to say, Tara, to go back to your why Sunday is because Sunday is like the moment where we can all come together live, right? And then that's also the day that should theoretically be the simplest from our broadcast perspective. So that's the day that'll probably be the cleanest and it's probably the best advertisement for Disc Golf Network. But yeah, it's just trying to shift everyone to experiencing that final day together, because that's when we crown the champion. That's when it all kind of comes together, and it's really cool for everyone to get to do that together.
Doesn't it also?
That was a super long answer. I have really
that's a great answer.
That was. Holy crap!
It's a great answer.
But doesn't it also then? Kind of, I don't know what the good cliche is. No, well, some would say it disincentivizes and say, well, why do I want to sign up if the final day is going to be free? And then I think the natural answer is, well, then consider the first 2 days bonus. I mean, that's then in theory. I don't understand that. I mean, I hear that argument. I just totally disagree with it when people say you're giving away the quote unquote best or last day for free. So why should I sign up? Well, the answer is because then you get the first 2 days, which no one else gets. That to me, yeah. So I understand the disincentivize as much as I disagree with that. Yeah. Now, what I was really going to say, though, is doesn't it also fly in the face of anyone that's saying, like, we're greedy SOBs by having a paywall? Because guess what? We're giving away the best last day for free. Like, to me, it's funny that anyone would almost disagree with that concept because in theory, like you said, or like anyone could say, that should be the one day we are charging for, and it's on its head. It's the exact opposite. It's for free. Anyone can watch it, and we're trying to get as many people in the world to possibly sit and watch that live in some capacity. So I personally, I don't understand the overall argument at all. Like I feel like everyone should love that the last day is free. But it's a valid question. I understand what you're saying, Ryan.
Yeah,
because sure. I have read it, but I truly don't understand. I mean, just consider the first 2 days then bonus is what I would do, or that's what you're paying for is exclusive access to those 2 days, plus all the other exclusive stuff you get on the network, but exclusive access to the first 2 days.
Documentaries, the highlights, things like that.
Yeah.
Golden State of Mind, the final episode of Golden State of Mind is coming out tomorrow, which has been awesome. Corey's docuseries on San Francisco disc golf. And we also have now we have a couple of podcasts that come out on there exclusively. But yeah, I mean, the main attraction to DGN is definitely the live broadcast. Like that's 100% true. So.
And I always joke with Mo, and he doesn't necessarily disagree, but Mo being an anti-capitalist as he is,
there's not in public.
No, I know, no. But there is also some incentive for the community and the disc golf. I'm going to say disc golf community in general to be able to draw a very large crowd on a final day. It shows sponsors. It makes it easier for the DGN to tell a sponsor, hey, look. Yeah, we might only get a third or a half of the Sunday coverage on Friday and Saturday, but that's still a lot. And you're going to get Sunday then, because you can't have Sunday if you don't get Friday and Saturday too. So there is a financial incentive on top of what we, I say we, I'm not a member of the DGN, but what the general DGN does. I mean, it makes sense financially to say, look at all these eyeballs we're going to bring your company. And you you get these extra 2 days, and you know that if someone is paying for Friday and Saturday, they are a dedicated disc golfer. It's the discussion, and today it just brings to my head because there was an Apple keynote. Why do app makers make Apple apps first? Well, usually because if you're an Apple user, you're more likely to buy an app, as opposed to an Android user, which traditionally is more likely to try to download free apps. So if we have these users that are willing to pay for live broadcast, I don't want to call them true fans, but they are dedicated hardcore fans that are more likely to buy your product as well. So there is a financial thought process behind it, is my guess. I again, that's a Jeff question for sure, but I can also see that argument.
Yeah, I mean, right now you got free disc golf. If you want to wait till Sunday just to consume it free, great. We applaud that. And if you want extra action, get in on it earlier. A quick question, another one. I don't know if this is one for you or not, Mo, but it says, when will the Disc Golf Network podcast when will they be going to the personal RSS feed so that I can use normal podcast app? Which I know it is a hang up for some people. Any thoughts on that? Any insight?
Not really. It's definitely been like a conversation on our end as well. So I'll just leave it at that.
I think personally, I always have an idea.
Yeah, you do.
And they're not always good. Nobody has to listen.
Yeah.
I think those podcasts should be available on either a personal RSS feed or even a public RSS feed delayed. That's the type of thing. Like, guess what? You want to hear the Party podcast? You want to hear they have the FPO winner on this week? Cool. If not, you got to wait 2 weeks, and then you get the old, so to speak, news or discussions, or the Nick and not Nick and Matt show, the Matt and Josh show. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, so you're saying basically get
Disc Golf Pro Tour Talk.
Disc Golf Pro Tour Talk with Matt and Josh. Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of the podcast. It's brand new, so go and check it out, guys. It's a post-production podcast. So they're doing actual editing and not just spewing live. Like
it looks great.
Yeah, it
looks great.
I caught a little bit of it. Yeah.
All right, Mo. Do we have everything?
So much fun though.
We got to cut you off.
We're all going to be in the same studio this weekend. Terry will be in the room next door. So for those of you that don't know or understand the setup, a lot of times when our studio is in Bend, occasionally Terry will go out there, but usually Terry's on the course. Well, this will be our second attempt at a combined studio, and actually the first time that. No, this is our first time at a combined studio, because even the last one, the booth was in the new studio, but we were still here in the basement.
We were in the basement. Yeah.
So I didn't even see Mo last time.
No, the advantages are that
I don't think I've literally never seen Dana, or I don't think I've seen Dana or Terry in ever.
What people notice is that when we bring in the West Coast feed, it can be a little bit delayed as far as the reaction. So because I have to transfer the audio back and forth, the video, and so it might be a second to a second and a half behind the action. And that bothers some people at times.
Somebody asked about it earlier tonight.
And so with the studio being combined, and this will be our first effort with that. Now we've done it before at DDO, where we've been in the same spot. It should be live. Like, that audio will be right on it. So the minute someone hits those chains, Terry will be able to cheer instead of a second and a half later. So that's one of the big advantages. Now, again, we're not going to be doing that all year. We've got commentators, right? You've got a bunch of different new commentators this year. We have a studio on the West Coast. We're going to be doing an on-site studio at DDO somewhere, I think, in maybe the Country Club or wherever.
I think it's the Country Club. Sam's going to set it up. It's going to look beautiful because Sam's an artist. So
Sam is an artist. So
So. Tell me, I was asking JVD this. You guys have another guest, right? It can't just be me.
It's just you tonight. So, Mo,
oh my gosh, here's Smashboxy. Smashies? Yeah, poor Smashies.
Yeah.
Well, look at it this way, Mo. Our last two guests have taken Well, this past weekend they took first and second. We had Ricky and Calvin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had
Hokum before that.
We had Hokum on. So we've had a bunch of winners on. So you're in good company. So
yeah. You're just keeping right on the bar.
You're gonna win. You're gonna win something.
I did win the I want to say 19. No, it wasn't. It was before that. The 2018 Steady Habit Open at Nichols Field in East Haddam, Connecticut.
Yep.
I won that one. I was
and Johnny, roll the graphic.
Down.
Click. Here are the highlights.
I also heard you won Shake of the Day over at Club 69.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Club Mo, when you walk out of our studio, that bar across the street is Club 69.
Yeah. And then
Shake of the Day is like
a bar.
It's like a
bar
dice
game.
Bar dice game. But yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
I've literally never seen that even. Really? It's called Club. That's very on the nose.
It's literally Mo. It's literally you walk out those side doors where we used to always go in and out. We have to buzz in. It's like across the street. There's a big sign that says Club.
Yeah, we're going there Sunday night. All of us.
Yeah, we're all going there.
Just bring the Pro Tour credit card. We're all going. Don't worry.
Probably next door. It's probably next door to your bakery or your Mexican restaurant.
Okay, so honestly, this is one of my biggest concerns moving into the new space. There's a Chipotle like 100 feet from JVD's front door, and I would go there every single show. Not because I liked it, but because it was just the most convenient thing. There's no other food spot that within 5 minutes I could grab it and be back. And it was like kind of a roller coaster of emotion with Chipotle, where at first I was like, oh man, I get to eat Chipotle like every day when I'm in Milwaukee. That's pretty cool because I love Chipotle. And then it got to the point where it's like I can't even look at Chipotle. I hate this so much, but I have to eat it because it's the fastest thing. And now it kind of came full circle where I was like, you know what, this is fine. I kind of got to the medium point where I was like, I don't mind this. I'm not choking it down, but I enjoy it, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. The bakery across the street from the control room has a spectacular both chicken and steak burrito. Both are amazing. And it also is I haven't tried any of the baked goods, but I assume they're wonderful. And like that was really one of my big hangups was like, what if we don't have like a good food spot? And now that check mark is probably why I've been in such a good mood lately.
I am not even joking. Mo came back from that bakery with a burrito and he's just like, oh, okay, we'll check it out. He takes like 2 or 3 bites and his eyes light up and he looks at me and he goes, game changer right here. He's like, wow. And he's just like, this is delicious. Like
it's good enough. Yeah.
And you were going to town. And I was like, cool. I'm gonna have to check it out at some point now.
Okay.
It's a great opportunity for me to practice my Spanish too, which is that's hugely important. So.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, it's I know who lunch and dinner and where we're going. Everything's all taken care of Sunday.
Gonna hit the
Looking
bakery
forward to
and
it.
Club 69 next door.
Perfect. Yeah. So let's switch gears briefly then, Mo, since we can't get rid of you.
I'm sorry.
I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. I know you're super busy. You're busy, and then you're busy during the weekends more because you're prepping for the next day's show, so on and so forth. However, with all of that, did you consume either highlights or lowlights or any part of the Askren Paul fight this weekend, or did you catch any cliff notes? Not that there was a lot to get. What do you got?
So because I'm on Twitter, I get to see all the news and stuff. I just saw that Askren. So going into it, I was like, this is stupid. Ben Askren's like a professional wrestler. Like you're professional anything, you're going to be really good at it. It doesn't matter. And what's his name? Jake Paul, the YouTube guy.
Yep.
He's not a professional fighter. He's like you can work out and punch a bag, but you're not professional. So when he fought Nate Robinson, I was like, yeah, of course this is I don't know, it's a toss up. Nate Robinson's not a professional fighter. Jake Paul's not a professional fighter. I have no idea who's going to win. But this one, I was like, there's no way Ben Askren doesn't win this thing. He's like an NCAA All-American wrestler. Like it's not like he's not just like some guy. He knows how to do this. I guess boxing is not his discipline, so like that's a little different. But yeah, I don't know. The whole thing seemed like a trebuchet mockery. So I don't. It's just
okay.
So it didn't seem great. I didn't pay for it. I would never pay for something like that. but just seeing the knockout, I mean, I don't know. I saw Brody Smith said that we could do a better job, which was interesting.
I
Yeah.
didn't watch the actual broadcast at all, but I did see a couple people say like that the Triller or Triller production was very bad. Like the quality, I don't know if it was just they didn't like what they were seeing, and yeah.
I mean, it was a combination of things. I think I don't know if this is their normal format because I haven't watched anything prior to this, and people were just streaming it free on YouTube or they were pirating it over to YouTube. So I was able to kind of pay attention loosely to what was going on, and they would essentially have a fight. Then they'd cut to Justin Bieber, singing a song or two, and then they'd have another fight, and then they'd have another artist, and then there was these interim things where Pete Davidson was talking to either Askren or Jake Paul, and they and then Snoop is one of the main developer financiers, commentators, and so there was a lot of just odd things going on, I guess, and I think that would be a good summation of it all. And so, as someone just said, it was some bad fights broke out at a concert is basically. No. I mean, like just the fact that it's like it was kind of a weird concert series, but then there was these fights that were taking place.
Entertainment show with some or some boxing in the middle.
Yeah, and it was a different format, I think. Than I mean, it's clearly not like a normal pay-per-view night where you just sit and watch 4 or 6 or 8 fights. It had all this interim entertainment, and
well, I mean, you're I don't know about the other stars, but you're watching a YouTube guy fight a retired MMA star.
Yeah. No,
he did not look good, dude. He like didn't look like in shape or like he had prepped at all. And then he walked away and he was like smiling. I'm like, you don't look like that. If you're like an athlete and you're like, if you're competitive, you don't want to get embarrassed like that. I don't care who you are.
Well, and that,
I don't know, man. That whole thing was just, even the Twitter reaction to it was a lot. So.
Well, and then I think there was a lot of questions and controversy as to whether or not Askren had exactly, and the fight just before that went down and ended in the most bizarre call off way. And I'm not a boxing aficionado, but I mean, it looked really weird. It looked like the guy the fight before them had totally been a weird flop where the guy got punched in his side, but he was like claiming that he got punched below the belt, and it was very awkward in every possible sense, even for a guy who doesn't know much. It was very awkward. So,
did you watch it, Ter?
I did, because like I said, there were other people that were streaming it to YouTube illegally, and
I see.
So it was available everywhere if you just search for it. So I was kind of keeping my eye on it while doing some editing. And it was all very weird. So if anyone's saying that, I agree. But then Askren, it was talked about anywhere between 500,000 and $1 million. It was his take home. And then I've seen upwards of tens of millions for Jake Paul in the fight, because Jake Paul also has some tie to Triller, like some financial investment in Triller itself. So it's all very convoluted. And I said, you could give me $10 million, and I don't think I could stomach Jake Paul in any possible way just as a human, because he seems like way before
garbage.
This, I thought he was trash, but that's another story.
Yeah, I had no idea who he was until he fought Nate Robinson, because I like Nate Robinson because he used to be on the Bulls. So that's the first time I heard the name Jake Paul. Was this guy is fighting one of my favorite Bulls.
Yeah. I mean, him and his brother are two of the largest YouTube stars, blah, 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 in YouTube land, which I would have, everybody would have laughed at 10 years ago. But when they're making $100 million a year on YouTube or whatever they're doing, that's all fine and dandy for them. So I'm not passing judgment for that reason. I just think he's an obnoxious jackass as a person, regardless of his profession. I guess if I separate the two. So.
For sure.
Anyway.
Yeah, I wish I could say no more. I never. I mean, Ben Askren as a disc golfer, you're rooting for him. You hope he does well.
Of course.
And he promoted disc golf on the some of the pre-game show stuff. So
also, there was a post. This might be a little more of interest to the both of you. There was also Askren and Christian Yelich had a public conversation about playing against one another. How good is he, Johnny? You're a big Brewer fan.
Yelich, I mean, it's hard to say. He was injured a lot of last year, but I think it was the year before that, or was it 2 years ago? He was like the league MVP.
So he's good.
Yeah, because at one point, I think it was 2 years ago, because we had Giannis, we had Yelich, and we had Rogers, and I argued with anybody. I said, you name, if you pick one person from each sport, and I actually gave this question to Dixon because he posted it on his thing. Can you name, 3 athletes from 3 sports in one state that are any better? Like, and then Rogers was the MVP last year, not the year before, and I think Giannis and Yelich were the MVPs in the same year. And then Rogers gets it the next year. And then somebody threw out California, which had they've got a ton of teams there, so they kind of they have a lot to pick from.
Cheating a little bit.
Yeah, they're cheating. They're too big, too many teams. But
too big. Wisconsin, man.
Exactly. I mean, I think we're lucky in Wisconsin right now to have
my little brother and sister both. My little brother and sister both Badgers. So I went to a D3 school, so it's so great to be able to, because I had to kind of half-heartedly vote, root for Illinois or DePaul or whatever, because I grew up here. But then my brother and sister both went to Madison, and now I get to be a big Badgers fan, which is great because they're actually good at everything. So it's a lot more fun that way.
It is, yeah.
But yeah. I'm sorry. If you want to, I'll leave.
No. Here, somebody actually.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. We've got nothing. Nothing.
We're gonna talk. Trying to end the conversation.
No. And we've got
keep me here.
No, we've got nothing pressing after you anyway. But this does bring up. Here's a great question. Thanks to Tim on the board, who said that Aaron Rodgers is the best Jeopardy host. Okay, I'm going to take that a step further though, and I'm going to say, which disc golfer or personality, whomever it might be, if you had to tomorrow, you were assigned the task to take someone from our sport and make them the Jeopardy host for 2 weeks, not permanently, but for 2 weeks, who's that person?
The first person that comes to my mind is Kevin Jones, just because whatever environment Kevin is in, he just makes it better. It doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter what the mood is. It just becomes better when Kevin's there. He's the best person I think I've been around in disc golf. It's just he's just such a joy to be around. Like, it's just, he's got all this energy. He's got all this he's like everyone's hype man, right? Like, he just seems so genuinely supportive, which I need that. I lack a lot of confidence, and I have self-esteem issues. And it's when Kevin's like, yo, Mahmoud, you're so great. He's just telling you you're great and telling you you're awesome. And when you throw a cool shot, he's rooting for you more than he's rooting for himself. And it's just Kevin's awesome. I love Kevin Jones. So that was the first person that came to my mind. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anyone better than Kevin Jones. I just got Kevin Jones on this level. I love Kevin Jones, man. I'm a huge Kevin Jones fan.
Well, there's a few of your other crushes that have been named here in the board for suggestions.
Ian Anderson.
Ian Anderson has been named.
He's not really a golfer, but maybe unless you're talking community.
Sure. I was saying anyone in disc golf.
He's a good golfer, actually. But.
Nate Sexton, Yeti.
Sexton's yeah.
Barsby. Zach Melton.
Barsby's kind of the same way. Barsby's the same way as KJ, where whatever room he's in, it just becomes a better room because he's in it. He just has that yeah.
Yep. A big man crush, Twitter man crush of yours, Andrew Fish. Chris Clemens would be good. Some saying Philo. Disc Blaster, who always has insightful stuff, says Germ is the face of disc golf, which is a take. Philo
Germ would be interesting. Germ would be definitely interesting. He's a really good host. He's really good at he'd be great.
Philo.
I think Kona would be a pro at it. Kona's super polished and super smart, and she'd be knocking it out of the park. Holly would be. Now that I mention it, Holly would be insanely good at that. Holly is just pro. You put a camera in front of her, she performs, man. She's really great.
Which is funny because I think of like Hannah Macbeth.
Oh
Because
yeah.
she would look at all the questions and then research them, prep them, and know the answer
Yeah.
and the history behind them because she's such an I don't want to say an over prepper, but she is
No, that
prepared.
just works, man. She's a grinder.
She
Yeah.
works hard at everything she does, which is why I think that
There's a few people
put
that
in
you would I see Sharpie on Johnny's screen where he's crossed out some of those suggestions. So yeah, I think about what
I
I've
have my
seen
favorites.
from like from Aaron Rodgers, and just a little bit I've seen him talk about the show and what he's done, whether it's through his Instagram or other places. And clearly, like you just said, Johnny, he prepped, he practiced, he watched, he did all of these things. And I think some of the suggestions that were made here, I think are, of course, they're all great personalities. I think there are some people that have been listed that would knock it out of the park way more than others.
I think Sexton is just such a natural host. He just feels
Sure.
like he has that natural hosting ability from just being in front of the camera for so much. So
whereas Nate W says Vinny, smartest dude on tour. I may not disagree with that. I don't know that Vinny Kelvin Heimberg would be the best Jeopardy host. I mean, unless you're going for a very specific style.
Yeah, I love Vinny's.
As do I.
I think he's hilarious. Yeah.
So anyway, it's kind of funny and interesting. See, also Erica Stinchcomb would nail it from FPO. She's obviously been great. Billy Ashton says Simon. Again, I think there's an interesting perspective to that question of
what are you looking for?
What are you looking for in that host? But I think Jeopardy has kind of a set style. Yeah.
I love that we got a bunch of Erica. We got like several holes of Erica Stinchcomb coverage in this weekend because she was like playing really well down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually kind of funny at one point because like in FPO, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth were all separated by like 3 strokes, so those people were all locked in. And we were like, but this battle for sixth though is just like really tight right now. So like it was actually like real. I always love the end of FPO because we have all 5 cameras there, and we're kind of like firing on all cylinders at that point. And it's also like a little more like laid back because we've been there for so long, and I think we just do a lot better because we're not as tight. And the end of our FPO show for Jonesboro, I just like loved because we got to show Erica Stinchcomb throwing these great shots. Missy Gannon was hitting putts. Who else was? We got to show Christine Jennings making a great shot on 16. Like, yeah. Anyway, end of our FPO show was great last time.
Erica Stinchcomb, low key, great putter.
Yeah,
like she's one of those names that when you talk about some of the great putters, her name is never brought up. Which is why I say low key, because everyone talks about Missy Gannon and Lisa Fakis and Owen Scoggins, and none of them are wrong. Paige Pierce from outside the circle, but Erica Stinchcomb is just solid.
Mm-hmm.
Solid, yeah. I think she's top 16 right now in Pro Tour stat. Like she would make the championship if it ended today. Which there's a lot of names like right on that edge. I think this might be the first year that people will try to make the Tour Championship and not make it. Because I think in past years. For the most part, if you signed up for the tour card, it was pretty hard to not make it. I mean, there's like I'm probably forgetting someone who is probably mad at me right now. Like,
sorry, AJ.
Hey, I did try to make it. Yeah, I did try to make it, but yeah, for the most part, if you played all the events, it was for the most part, all the big names were there that had played all the events. This might be the first year that you legitimately see someone like really go for it and not make it, which I think is fascinating because like Heather Young after Waco was not qualified, and if you listed 10 players in FPO, Heather Young would be in that top 10, and she's not making the Tour Championship. That's wild. And same thing with the line for men is also like I think like AB is who AB is not making it right now. Hannum has gone off to a really slow start. He's not making it right now. Hannum was in the Final Four last year. He's not even qualified right now if the thing ended today. I think the Tour Point thing is going to be pretty exciting this year. I'm actually really excited to like follow it as a fan a little bit. So
we need. I think I told you this week. I told you this
we
this
need
weekend
Tour Points thing.
That we need the Tour Points graphics more often now, and we need UDisc to have like one of their little trackers that they do for USDGC for like top 16. Tour points.
Yeah.
So that people can just click on a little thing and they can say, oh, look, so-and-so right now would be, I don't know how you'd how they would do that, but they're smart guys. They could figure that out so that
That
they
sounds
can.
like a lot of math for Josh to do.
I know. I like to just throw things at Matt and Josh and just say, hey, they should do this. So,
You know what you should do?
but I think it would be a cool feature to have on the site. And my guess is that Josh is probably going to message me tomorrow and be like, yeah, it's like 95% built, and I just, we just haven't finished it up or something silly. Like
Yeah,
that. But I think
think
we need more of that on the broadcast to push those narratives.
yeah, at a certain point for sure. I think after there's like the 4 events in 4 weeks thing. I think after that stretch, that's where that's when we probably start doing that, because then it's like then there's like 3 or 4 more. Yeah,
You already hear on a lot of sports things, if the season ended in MLB today and they're like 15 or 20 games in, out of 162.
I mean, it just takes spike in one event, and then all of a sudden you have a really good shot of making it with the 100 points for winning one. So and given that there's 4 in a row, and we've had different winners for each Elite Series event in both MPO and FPO, I just think it'll be like so volatile, and we won't really have a clear picture until after that stretch. And I think it's like in July or June, July or something. But I'm just excited to follow it. Like, I mean, it's not like, I think the top is pretty well set. Like, it's going to be some order of Calvin, Macbeth, Wysocki, Katrina, Paige, Hokum. It's going to be those 3 in some order near the top. But like the 16 through 32, like that's super fascinating to me. Like, is Gavin Rathbun going to make top 8? Like, he might. Like, the players making those breakout kind of seasons. So, anyways.
I was just gonna say I'm very much not a stats guy, but looking at the Pro Tour standings, the top 5 men, which are Calvin, Ricky, Paul, Eagle, and Nico, the top 5 men, 4 of them have victories, and probably the one you would think, the one you wouldn't think would be the outlier, is Paul Macbeth. He has no victory here on the Pro Tour in the season. And I think if anyone was to bet and be like, okay, after 5 events or 6 events have happened, 2, 4, 5 total, 5 events have happened, which one of these guys won't have a Pro Tour victory?
Right.
$1 million $1 million would be bet that it would not be Paul. So I guess that that is very interesting as to what's going on here in the season for sure.
The bit that Tyler did with Macbeth being like, the Macbeth is washed up on shore. It was like a boat crash, and then they had the 2 people arguing, and then the one guy saying, he's gonna have he's gonna have a career as a promoter. Like, that's been stuck in my head for a month now. I can't get it out. It's just, because it's so funny. Like, because you can definitely hear someone on the course saying that to someone else, like, oh yeah, as a figure, yeah, he's definitely still, but as a player, come on. And those people are idiots. So
I will ask this question, and this is going to sound like it's directly geared at Paul, and it's not, because there's now a few of these people. And I believe it or not, I actually reflected for a moment in my 11-hour drive the other night. Knowing where disc golf has come from, and the grind that it was, and the grind that it still is. Let's be real; it's still a grind.
For sure.
We're still, sleeping in vans. Some are decked out, and some aren't, and whatnot. And you're still trying to cash.
Awesome,
you're still trying to cash to get to the next event in some cases for a lot of these players. My question is, does guaranteed money, not just Paul Macbeth's big contract, do all of our players, the ones that have guaranteed money, has that possibly reduced any of their competitive drive at all?
Absolutely not. No.
You think none?
Not even a little bit.
See, I disagree.
No. Oh no, I disagree, because I think, swear this is going to sound crazy, I think it has pushed down Paul's competitive drive.
You're just
let me explain my situation. Let me explain why. Because now Paul is win or doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As opposed to if he were still grinding for money,
if every dollar mattered.
If every dollar mattered, second, third, fourth, that matters to him then. As opposed to
Yeah.
now, I mean, he's
You won't see Paul ever trying to
Never.
protect third.
Never.
And be like, well, I'm comfortably in third.
Do I lay
this
this
I'll
putt
lay up
up?
this putt because I just want to make sure I still secure third. Kyle Klein might do that.
Yeah,
Paul won't.
If there's a 70-foot putt with a drop off behind it, and he has a chance to win, or he has a chance to take sixth, he's going for the win every time. You're right, Kelvin, all of them, Calvin Klein, Kevin Klein, the actor, Kyle Klein would think about that. Like, do I want to take sixth? Like, I could win now. Granted, most
That's
of them are
an extreme example.
That
but
is an extreme
I'm
example.
saying
Most
third
of
to
them want
fourth
the
money.
win, but third to fourth money, that could be
Could be $300 or $600 on the Pro Tour.
I think it does. I think it changes. Maybe it doesn't change his competitive drive. It changes his mentality.
Yeah, the math maybe.
Yeah,
But
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I still kind of disagree. Like athletes are just like athletes like that, like thoroughbred athletes like Paul.
Mhm.
Like they're just different. They're just, and I've said this on a few podcasts. I've said this in a few places. Like Paul is one of the few disc golfers that really reminds me of like those athletes I interacted with a lot at ESPN. It's just like just the way he carries himself, kind of the confidence he carries himself with, kind of the energy he's got. His competitiveness is just like it's just different. And like yeah, when you're at that level, like when you got that like it's I don't want to sound cheesy, but like when you have that like that fire, right? Where it's a very kind of the way he is, I don't think he would ever shut it down or something.
No.
He would never be like, whatever, this doesn't like. And if he does, it's just because like it's just him kind of getting fuel for the next one. Like I, I mean, yeah. I don't know.
We broke Mo just a little bit.
No,
No,
I think thinking of that dude as anything other than like a killer like that is dangerous because then he'll mess you up. Like he's yeah, he's got that edge. And
I think from Monday to Sunday afternoon, that dude is working hard. He's trying his hardest. But come Sunday afternoon with 9 holes to go, he looks at that board and he says, "Do I have a chance to win?" And if he's far enough down, he's starting to push things he normally wouldn't. He's running at everything, which other players might not be doing, because he can afford to do that. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's not a different drive. Maybe it's a different mentality.
I don't think the money would affect that though. Like I think if Paul's in 9th, he's still going crazy trying to win the tournament.
And
like even if he's still grinding, I think it's just like it's just the way you're wired. I mean, like yeah, it's just the way you're wired. I've been around enough athletes, enough like really really good pro athletes to know that's just how they are wired. They're different for a reason. Like being a pro athlete takes something. Like people always say like, well, why are they paid so much, or why are they treated like it's because that's what they're worth. They get paid what they are worth. They get paid appropriately. They don't get. It's just hard to conceptualize being that good at anything. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's yeah. I don't want to sound like the biggest Paul fanboy in the world.
No.
Like,
I mean, and that's why
Paul. It could be Ricky.
That's why I want to say I almost want to take Paul out of this because I feel like he's kind of the easy target. And I know a lot of people have said this or something along these lines of, "Oh, Paul making the money has made him soft." So that like Paul's not. Paul isn't the person I'm even specifically thinking of, and I don't know that I'm thinking of a specific person. I'm just thinking it's not Paul I'm focused on. I just think. An Eagle or a Simon or literally anyone that has a guaranteed contract of X amount of money, and they know does second or third or fourth sit a little easier at the end of the weekend?
If it did, you wouldn't be a pro athlete. If it did, you wouldn't be a pro athlete. You wouldn't have made it there in the first place because you don't. That's like. And I get disc golf is maybe a little different. It's a little easier to be a pro athlete than it is in track or in basketball or baseball or whatever. But if you had that mentality, like, oh, it's okay if I get 5th, Like
No,
you can't
I'm not
function.
suggesting it's easier, but let's put it this way: 10 years ago meant you literally had to eat McDonald's, and now
Yeah.
fifth you're still able to afford Outback. Like, so that's what and then you're guaranteed
Ter-
now money because you're making a monthly or annual salary. 10 years ago, nobody was.
That's true. That's definitely true. And Terry, that sounded like you coming awfully close to besmirching the good name of McDonald's, and I just won't have that here.
I am McDonald's free for like 3.5 years. Very proud of it. Thanks to the
Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh
because
my
I
gosh.
only
I
eat
used to-
healthy. Clearly,
there's a McDonald's. If the oven is hot enough, it'll burn anything. There's a McDonald's in between JVD's house and
the hotel.
the hotel that I usually stay. And I like, especially on the bad days, I would like 100% get a McFlurry and regret it every time.
But
There's never a time. Yeah.
One of the very first
you're
times,
comfort eating.
one of the
Good.
very first times Mo was in my basement to do a show, I drove him back to his hotel, and that was when you were at the Far Hotel, like down on South 27th Street, and we're driving, and Mo's kind of like, can we stop for McDonald's? And I was like, sure, that's fine. And he gets himself some McDonald's because we hadn't eaten dinner or anything, and I didn't think anything of it or less of it. But Mo's a McDonald's fan.
And then he's like,
Yeah.
I'll take it with or without salty tears mixed into my McFlurry.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am not. Nobody think I'm taking some stupid hot take because I don't think our players are giving up and they don't care out there. Nothing of that extreme. I just was reflecting and thinking it's a little easy. Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 2%. It's a tad easier to swallow fourth place finish today than it was to swallow fourth place finish 5 years ago. Because
I agree with
that's kind of
I
my
agree with
point.
you after the tournament. Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with you
Yeah.
after the tournament. Like,
Yeah.
I like when if you finish the event in fourth, it probably doesn't feel it. Not probably. It definitely doesn't feel quite as bad. But like maybe it does. I honestly don't know.
I mean, nobody,
maybe it
and
does
again,
feel
Johnny. I think you kind of hit on a great phrase that it doesn't reduce their competitive drive, but their overall mentality is a bit different. And somewhere in there's a distinction. I know there might be a fine line, but I'm not claiming they're showing up and like, hey, I don't care if I finish 15th this weekend because I'm getting a weekly paycheck. Like, I'm not claiming anyone's thinking that.
No.
I just think that now it's just the ramifications of a poor finish don't carry what they used to. That's all. And
that's fair. I don't know.
And players know that.
So
Yeah, I mean, I just think back to when I was in college and I was running track and field NCAA, and like I still
Nice
remember
flex.
all my bad.
Good flex.
No, I'm just trying to. I used to be an okay athlete. I still have my high school 2 mile record. But yeah, But I still think about bad races. Like I still think about them all the time. I still think about my regional race my senior year. Like every run I go on, I have a flashback to it. And I'm not even that good. So I can't even imagine if you were good, how much more it has to like infuriate you every time you make a mistake. How much more it has to like make you feel like I can't believe I just messed that up. And I trained this hard for this. Like, and that's what I'm talking about with Paul, that I don't see it in a lot of the other guys, is like when Paul messes up or when Paul does something stupid or when he doesn't play perfect, I can see how much it like kills him, because like it's just, and that's what's different, is like pro athletes don't like winning, they hate losing.
I think that's a common denominator between him and Ricky, because you see Ricky too. Even good shots, you see Ricky scold himself.
Exactly.
And those, and like it or not, and I don't know if it's just a mentality thing. You don't see that as much out of like Kelvin, and I think Kelvin is just as good as it. Maybe he just internalizes it better.
I think he does. Yeah, that's probably
Paul and
Kelvin's
Ricky
got that fire
are
too.
a little more. Oh yeah, 100%. I know he does, but Kelvin is different. Is built different than Ricky and Paul, where Ricky and Paul, it's a little bit more external. You can see, you can tell when they screw up. Like Kelvin gives a little a shrug, and it was a little bit more interesting when he showed some emotion this weekend. We saw Kelvin show some, and We don't catch that a lot on camera. Whereas if we catch it all the time on Paul slaps his thigh. Paul hits his disc against, he slams his disc into the bag.
Folds it in half.
Ricky gets upset
Jumps on his
when he
disc.
hits a tree. And we see that much more frequently because they expect perfection because they have been close. They have achieved that close to perfection. And not a lot of our other players have.
So, Mo, I think one of the few answers we didn't get out of Ricky a week or two ago while he was lounging on his bed here on Smashbox.
That was a great interview.
One of the few answers, and maybe I wasn't direct enough. Maybe I was. Should Ricky be getting the same or more as what Paul's getting? Is Ricky as valuable? And if so, why not? Is it the rings? Is it the number of rings? Is it recency? What is it?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Like, you're kind of worth what you're worth. Like, it's difficult to determine. And the marginal value. Sorry, that's my like econ.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Background. No, but like the marginal difference between first and second in sports is like so dramatic. Like like LeBron James gets paid like LeBron James because the person that after LeBron James is literally just they're not LeBron James. That's like the difference, right? So like that's the difference here. It's not that Ricky is not as good as Paul or like Ricky is not as competitive as Paul or Ricky's not going to win the tournament. None of that matters. He's just not Paul. That's the difference. So it's just like no one's LeBron, no one's Michael. Like Michael Jordan got 30 million, the next person was making 20. It's because that difference matters a lot. Even if it's a very small difference, the difference between first and second is the difference between being the best and the difference between literally not being the best. So, and not to say that like Ricky's not the best, but like it's just like, I mean, you can make an easy argument that there are a bunch of athletes in the NBA right now better than LeBron, but they're, and you can do the same thing with Michael in '98. But Michael got 30 because he was Michael, and and LeBron gets 40 because he's LeBron. It's just different when you're at that level, and if the replacement for you is not you, and that's a big difference, then that matters a lot. If that makes sense. That's a very weird abstract way of putting it, but like like the amount of that jump is really relevant.
Okay, I mean,
make sense, Harry?
It does. Yeah, you don't have to mansplain me like I'm an idiot. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I fully understand. It's just it's been really interesting because it feels as if
Ricky's better right now.
Not just now. I mean, I don't think that's really the argument as much as just it feels like, as you said, Paul seems to be head and shoulders above everyone else financially in him getting his. And yes, everyone else's contracts seem to be improving and getting better and better. But one would say, hey, Paul and Ricky are like neck and neck more often than not. So you would wonder if their contracts are. And I feel as if their contracts likely are worlds apart. And you've given us your logic to that, if that's the case. And we don't know that. I mean, I kind of almost directly asked that to Ricky, and he kind of sort of really didn't answer that. And it's an awkward conversation to even have right now as well. But
that's the beautiful thing about sports is like it's pretty quick. It's pretty obvious like how good you are, and it's pretty quick for people to notice that, and it's pretty quick for your value to keep up. Like if you step on an NBA court and you can't play basketball, you'll be out of the league in 2 years. Like it's just pretty obvious. It's not like that in any other industry. Like you go to your job, you might suck at it, but no one can tell really. Like, and you'll just keep doing it for forever. Like if you're a pro athlete and you can't do your job, you're gone. And it's like a lot of people can't deal with that, like that reality, and that's why there's not a lot of pro athletes out there. So if you get paid what you're worth in sports generally. It usually catches up to you if you're I don't want to say it's a blanket rule. It's not 100% of the time, but it's pretty obvious when you're doing your thing.
So one of my final questions will be then you have you've been around pro sports, you watch, you consume, you're a fan, you've worked at ESPN, all that stuff. If you could impose or infuse a little bit of of that knowledge into the idea of, not the idea of, but to shape or mold or provide a piece of advice for upcoming wannabe professional disc golfers. And this could be in any realm. This could be from a markability. This could be from an athletic standpoint. Whatever it is, any free range. What would be your advice if there is, hopefully not, but if there was a 10-year-old listening right now that's thinking, man, disc golf, I want disc golf to be my life. I want to be the next best player. I want the largest contract in disc golf once I turn 18. What would your words of advice be from anything within the sports world with really regards to any side of it?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to be popular and to be the best way to do all that stuff, to be popular and get paid and be on top of the world, have your own signature, just the best way to do that is just to be good. There's no substitute for it. Like, you can only get by so much on having a personality and having a brand and all doing all that fancy stuff. But like, if you're good, it doesn't matter. Like, all that stuff doesn't matter. It all kind of falls away pretty quick. Being good consistently, like, that's the most important thing. Like, honing your craft and being perfect at it, like, that's not easy. It's like, and it's boring too. Like, I think people like look at this, they think being good at sports is like a sports montage and it's all very dramatic and exciting, but like, being good at sports is boring. Being good at things in general is boring. Like, it's going to suck. It's not going to be fun. You're going to sit out there and putt 500 times and it's not going to be exciting. It's not going to be glamorous. The best way to get all that stuff, all the notoriety you want what Paul wants, you got to be as good as Paul. So go do that. I don't know. And it's not going to be fun. So enjoy.
Okay, so
Encouraging
follow
words of wisdom. Yeah.
No, but I like it, but follow that up and let me ask, who in sports, I wouldn't say necessarily, clearly not disc golf, but who in sports is good but isn't I don't know, I'll say not marketable, not personable. I mean, because we can name hundreds of people that are decent and then have personalities and then that, that elevates them. Is there anybody in sports that's the best, but you feel like it's still a terrible representative or a terrible marketer of themselves? Or, yeah.
That's
like
an
who's
interesting
the best
question.
athlete that's not seemingly personable? Maybe that's a shorter way to put that.
Yeah, maybe someone who doesn't like do a great job with their brand or something. I don't know. I can't think of somebody off the top of my head, but like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't think of someone off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But uh, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I just don't think I did those Moneyball articles like for UDisc a couple years ago, and it was like kind of stunning how closely correlated like your birdie percentage was with like your Instagram followers. Like, there's no substitute for being good. Like, that's what I'm trying
Okay.
to say. Is
Mm-hmm.
like, there's no way to kind of like personality your way into being popular. Like, it's just, if
I
you're
think
it,
you can be
well, if
popular,
you,
but you can't be the best.
sure, exactly, yeah. Like, if you're good, that's the number one way to get people to pay attention to you. It's like, yeah. And maybe you, I mean, I'm trying to, gosh, who is like not, I'm sure there's
Well,
people on the board being
yeah,
like,
they're
Mahmoud, you're
saying
so
Kawhi,
yeah.
Leonard, Ray Rice, Ron Artest are a few people that Reggie Williams.
And a lot of those people
Uh-huh.
had like legal issues. OJ
Sure.
Simpson
Yeah.
had a big legal issue.
Did he? I didn't hear about that.
Aaron Hernandez, big legal issue.
Oh,
Ray Rice, big legal issue. Ron Artest didn't. I think he did. Have
should be
issues.
legal issues.
Yeah, it should be legal issues.
I don't know.
Meta
Yeah.
World Peace.
Okay. I mean,
I
all
just
right.
think there's no substitute for it. Maybe that's just me being so like idealistic, but
Well, no, I
like,
mean it
if,
makes
if
sense.
Paul wasn't as good as he was, we wouldn't talk about him all the time. Like, I don't know. I think it's really easy to be like, be a hater and just like hate on people, but like, I don't know. If LeBron wasn't as good as he was, if Kawhi wasn't as good as he was, if Macbeth wasn't as good as he was, we wouldn't talk about them all the time.
How about Kevin Durant?
I love Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but a lot of people
What's
don't.
wrong?
I mean, is that just a
Yeah, but
sports thing?
he's one of the most like beautiful to watch basketball players.
Why
in the
don't
world
they like
ever.
him?
But
Let me ask, why don't people like him?
Is he good with his brand? You see, because the am I wrong in saying, and you're the NBA guy, am I wrong in saying he has the mentality, not the mentality, but the perception of chasing titles, or what is it like?
I know, but people still love his game though. You can't watch him play basketball and be like,
sure,
this dude sucks. Like you just can't do that. It's impossible because it's there in front of everyone. No one can hit that silky like 17-foot fadeaway that Kevin Durant hits, and it doesn't matter how much you post dumb stuff on Twitter, he still can do that, and no one else can. And he's the best basketball player in the Eastern Conference right now. So
isn't he hurt right now?
He's not playing right now. Yeah, but like when he's at full strength, he's wonderful to watch, and I think that even with how and that's why he gets paid. That's why everyone knows Kevin Durant's name. It doesn't matter that he sucks. Like maybe he's annoying. Maybe you don't want to hang out with him, but he's really good at basketball, and that's kind of what matters, at least to me as a fan of sports. So
sure.
Okay. So be good. Some sage advice.
Just be a great player.
Yeah, be the best player in the world, Mo says. No, I'm not.
But it's not just be good though. It's easy. It's hard. It's so boring and hard to be good. I think that's what everyone thinks, that the sports journey is like so exciting. It's not. Like I bet you if you ask Paul, like, oh dude, how fun was it to be the best? He'd say no, it sucked. It was really hard. I spent a lot of times like doing the same thing every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. There's no secret. There is no secret to doing this stuff. So there's no secret to being a good TV director. There's no secret to being a good producer. There's no secret to being a good on-course commentator. It's just work and being good and just trying hard. Like that's all it is. So.
Okay. Well, that 10-year-old out there is listening somewhere.
That's probably the most bummed out 10-year-old ever now. Yeah.
Like, why are we listening to these guys? I should be in bed.
Let me go wake up my 11-year-old upstairs.
Exactly. All right, Mo, we are going to cut you loose here. We've got
I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. We loved having you. We've got other rambling to do. We'll kind of wrap up what else we saw this weekend and in other places, and go over any other basic news. And Evan's out on the board. Hey, Evan.
Evan Spur?
Camera one.
Camera one
checking in. Dude, Evan, dude, the pride of Canada.
Exactly.
Well, Thomas Gilbert will have an argument with you there.
Ouch.
Saying.
So will Sandy Hendel. Okay.
Yeah.
Sandra. Anyway, all right. Bo, we do appreciate it. We lots of people will appreciate all the behind the scenes kind of chatter and info and updates and pulling behind the curtain or pulling the curtain back and taking a peek behind. It's been a lot of fun here tonight. Thank you for continuously pushing us and the entire broadcast, for pushing the whole crew. Obviously, everything has been improving, and week in and week out, we're constantly finding other holes and gaps and ways that we can make an adjustment to improve for the next week. And sometimes they work flawlessly, sometimes they don't, but damn it, we are all trying to get there. And
tune in this Sunday for a perfect broadcast.
Yes, guaranteed by Mo. Guaranteed by Mo.
Absolutely perfect.
Or your YouTube money back.
Or your $5 back. Yeah, exactly.
We love you, buddy. Thanks, and we'll look forward to seeing you this weekend. Again, Shake of the Day, Club 69. We'll see you there. Bring the card.
All right. So all right. So as long as I don't have to do anything. All right. Sure.
You'll learn the hard way. All right. Good night.
I've never done Shake of the Day my whole life.
Oh,
it's
really?
Such a Wisconsin thing, I think.
Is it Wisconsin, or is it just bars, which are also a Wisconsin thing?
Yeah, maybe I'm confused there.
Let us know.
Maybe it's a
Let us
Midwest
know in the
thing.
comments, folks.
If a lot of towny bars, because it seems like more of a sit down kind of relaxed bar. Clearly, it's definitely you're not seeing that at your local club, your dance club. You're seeing those at more neighborhood bars, I believe, where you have regulars.
Yeah, and yes, I was just kind of throwing out words out there, Ray. I was joking when I said that he'll get his YouTube money back. No, this weekend, as we discussed, exclusively on Disc Golf Network, the Silver Series events are exclusively on the Disc Golf Network, and it is, again, since it is Silver Series, it is exclusively the final round. So that will be Disc Golf Network on Sunday. Last time it was Vintage, it was Saturday. This weekend it's going to be on Sunday, and it is at a course that is not named Harmony Bends. The course is in my email, but it has, as we talked about, it has been shifted to the other.
NOA
it's
or
called
something?
the back course at something.
Either way.
That's where it will be. So we trust that we'll see all of you guys this weekend. For what it's worth, maybe this will adjust your plans, but it's going to be myself and Dana Vici calling the MPO side.
Yeah, that is going to adjust my plans. I'm not showing up Sunday.
Exactly. So get your mute buttons ready. No, it's myself and Dana Vici, and then it will be myself along with Holly Finley. So it's essentially the exact same commentating crew that we saw for Vintage Open a few weeks ago. There you go. Yay, trust me. Yay.
All right, we kind of breezed through it, but let's quickly talk about Jonesboro Open. Ricky just playing well and winning.
Boring. He didn't even bogey.
I know. Lame.
Dude, how do you have as he said, how do you have a great recovery or bounce back rate when you don't get any bogeys?
So he's got to get one bogey and birdie after it. That's all he needs.
Huh. He should bogey the first hole and then birdie every hole after that. That'd be the ultimate.
Is that how it would work?
No, I don't know. Nice work, Ricky Wysocki. Not flawless, but damn close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Second place, Calvin Heiberg. Third place, Eagle McMahon. Fourth place, sneaking up, jumping up 7 spots. He wasn't on anybody's radar going into that final day, it felt like. But he squeezed into there. Home state boy, Kevin Jones. Fifth place, Adam Hammis. Tied with Casey White. There's those 2 young guns we talked about last week as well. And someone who's not a young gun anymore, Paul Macbeth. Man, that poor guy. Chris Dickerson.
Rich and washed up.
Yep.
That's what we just said.
Just doesn't have that drive, that competitive spirit anymore. You know, just cashing those checks. And, I mean, as someone said on the board, clearly getting fat and lazy and just,
sure,
wheeling around in a wheelchair practically. Chris Dickerson, 9th place. Miles Seaborn, a name you don't hear very often. He's a DD-sponsored player, but a really great player. Tends to stay regional to Texas, Oklahoma area, but what a great
funny story
great
to
player.
him, as you just mentioned, finished in 9th. He was walking up hole 18, I think it was hole 18 of the first round, and he's pulling his cart. He's kind of huffing and puffing. He's like, I can't keep up with these guys. I don't need this. Where's the Masters vision or something of that line, of those lines. And so to see the way he battled, to see the phenomenal final round that he had there, to shoot a bogey-free 8 under, and to finish 23 under overall. So all things aside, any, I don't want to call them excuses, any comments aside by him even, though, clearly a very, very impressive performance for the guy who is not on tour. I mean, look at every person in front of them. They're on tour full-time as a career.
And the next few, like Nicola Castro, these are all people tied for 10th. Drew Gibson, Ben Calloway. And I think this is Ben's first year truly back on tour. He kind of
he's been on and off a little bit, but then Colton Montgomery's on tour, James Conrad's on tour, Thomas Gilbert's on tour. I mean,
Aaron Gossage is the only name that I probably not on tour that I don't really know. And I've heard the name, but he's not a tour guy.
Garrett Gerthy. I mean, so the fact that he's right there hanging is really the point, with all those other people who are on tour. So very, very impressive. Nice work. We love it there, Miles. Good job.
On the flip side, FPO, we have Katrina Allen just putting down a phenomenal event, honestly. Her final round, nothing to write home about. She shot 3 under par, but her second round was really one for the ages, honestly. I remember looking over at one point. I knew Kat was playing well, and I've said 1,000 times when I'm in the studio or the control room, you don't always pay attention. You can kind of get a general feeling of how players are playing, but you don't know scores. As many times as we flash the scores up, I don't look at them. And I remember looking over at Mo's screen and just seeing a wall of blue, and I was like, holy crap. And I think that was like on 16 or 17. Then she parred and birdied, but shooting a 12 under par that second round, which really catapulted her into an untouchable lead. Second place, Paige Pierce shooting, a 7 under par, so a really, really great final round, but there was no catching Cat. Third place, Sarah Hokum. Fourth place, Macy Walker, who was a pleasure to watch. And I'm sorry, Mo, you're not on the show anymore, but that was Mo's pick. Not necessarily to win it, but he said keep an eye out for Macy Walker. So
the woman that's sponsored by DD that's won all 4 events she's entered this year, really jumping out on a limb there, Mo.
But that's great. As I said, congratulations. You look at who wins all of our FPO events in our area. You put them on tour, and they're probably not taking top 5. You want to do like a Barrett White, who wins a lot of our FPO, or
Holly Finley.
Holly Finley is really the only one, and she's not even so much of a regional player. She's a touring pro.
Yeah,
Macy is much more of a regional player, and she's been beating this year Heather Young at most of those events. But again, a name that not many other people are picking out. Whereas if Mo said keep an eye on her, I think she's going to finish really well, and she did. 5th place, Erica Stinchcombe and Kona Star Panis. So congratulations to the women.
Yeah. And just a huge shout out, of course, to Brad and crew over there.
Everyone loves it. Everybody loves Jonesboro. Eagle made a post today about how much he loves the course, and it seems to just be gaining more and more favor.
Yeah, I talked to Colton Montgomery, I think, right before the 3rd round, and he said, yeah, I love the course. It's great. It's awesome. I said, it feels weird that we're here for the 5th year. They haven't changed really anything significant, and yet the love and admiration for the course continues to grow each year. Usually you think, well, they have to make a change or something has to be different, or usually just changes will invoke some kind of differential opinion, good, bad, or whatever. But here, they're not doing anything except for keeping it looking great, and it just continues to be right there as a favorite and as a destination for these players that just enjoy it so much, which is nothing but a compliment. Like, I'm not saying they're resting on it, but the fact that they don't have to change anything and people come back, it's like the appreciation for it, I feel like, is growing year after year after year, which is awesome.
We've said it a dozen times. It's a thrower's course.
Yeah.
It is a course where it benefits you to throw far and hard, and a lot of hyzers there. Like, I don't want to say there's not a lot of shot shaping, because you do have to hit the fairways, and there's quite a few holes you need to hit the fairways in the right spot. You want to be landing in a good spot in order to make your approach much easier. But it is a thrower's course, and you can see that based on your top finishers. So that was the Jonesboro Open. Really, the only the story was Cat's putting second round, the rainstorm that the FPO had to deal with on the third round, and Ricky's just damn near perfection.
Yes, and more important than all of those things, still, Fred and Susan Cathcart were the start, or the beginning, I should say, of what turned into what I believe they called St. Jude Extravaganza. They've been raising money for 26 years. I believe it was one of their children had passed away, and they had teamed up with St. Jude to raise money for many, many years. They did it in all these different capacities for quite some time. I think it was actually tied to a Super Bowl party that they were doing forever. And then at one point, the Super Bowl came along and was like, yeah, you can't be associating with us in any official capacity. And so they started looking for other things to team up with and other events and entities. And now they have also partnered up and been part of this event here at Jonesboro. So we saw just before the final day, I think $45,000 was raised as a result of this event or in conjunction with the Jonesboro Open. And I believe that brings the total upwards of almost $6 million that have been raised in conjunction with everything that's been taking place there. So very, very incredible big picture item. Yes, disc golf's amazing, Disc Golf Pro Tour and the network and everything else, but then also when we're thinking so much larger and bigger and beyond, thinking about Fred and Susan Cathcart, thinking about St. Jude. Of course, disc golf has now kind of hitched our wagon to St. Jude in the last 5 or so years. I know sometimes at a personal level and at a bigger level, but pretty incredible overall to have this bigger community and philanthropic tie to it. So just a huge shout out. That again, Brad, Jonesboro Open, the entire crew, along with the fundraising component to it. Very, very cool. So big shout out. All right. Somebody earlier in the show had mentioned there was a I think he said a B tier event with maybe an oddity in that somebody unsponsored had taken down a couple of other top players. I apologize, that was way earlier in the show. Anything else that jumped out at you though this weekend here, Johnny? There was, of course, the AM side taking place at Jonesboro in conjunction with what we were doing on the Disc Golf Pro Tour side. The Rocky Mountain Amateur Championships, again, another AM side event. Other than that, No Fooling, which was also an AM only event, an event you and I used to attend for quite a few years. I don't know if there's anything else. A million B and C tiers taking place this weekend, as you would expect. So very cool.
Mo was, I don't say disappointed, that's the wrong word. Like, the numbers for concurrent viewers are kind of starting to plateau a little bit, and
largely because,
well, he was like, I don't, whatever. And I said, like, there's 1,000 events going on right now. Like, we're in the prime event season. This is like the first good weather. Unfortunately, now it's not for a lot of places in the Midwest. That players are out playing now, so we're not going to see those big spikes that we see in the beginning and the end of the year, and then for Worlds usually. I think we're going to hit this plateau for a little bit, and we're going to make some bumps up and maybe a bump down and whatever. But I think we're doing really well. And trust me when I say that the numbers are good. They're just everyone wants more, so I think it's cool. But it's because we have a billion B and C tiers that everybody's filling up and trying to get into.
I saw Brian Schweberger somehow didn't win. That shouldn't be our news, but it is. He didn't win this weekend. He did take second.
Elaine King did win, I believe.
That I did not. I didn't click on whatever event that must have been at. But what I think I saw, and I'm going to see if I can find the information, in the blue division, huge smashies and all-around superstars, Cody Garner and Emily Garner taking it down. I saw that earlier in the weekend, so congratulations to them. They had a 6-stroke victory as they were playing in our good friend Spike Heiser's event, Chuck Conley's Discraft Presents Spike Heiser's NC Doubles Championship 3. So if you're smashy and you're winning, we got to get that shout out in there. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, Elaine King won the 2021 Charlotte Masters Championship presented by Innova and Played Again Sports. So she's at 297. So we're
nice.
We've got the 300 countdown coming.
Yes. So congratulations, of course, to Elaine. Someone asking, well, we'll get to some of these more questions in the after show about hitting up the VIP barbecues. I went to one of the activities that I could get to. Oh, no, I didn't get over to the actual tent, the tent that I referenced during the show. A gentleman came up to me right before the last round started. And he's like, hey, come on down to the tent and help yourself to whatever. There was a whole VIP section down there, thanks to the sponsorship. And then it ended up raining and everything else.
I dropped what I was doing right there.
Yeah, no.
I don't care if you're in the middle of a check-in.
I'd be like,
drop a
hey,
mic.
guys, it's really nice. And then I just bolt. I smell burgers. No. I might love food, but come on. Work comes first.
Yeah, there's a couple things on the board. Ian, I don't know if that's spilling the beans, but yeah, Ian and Philo will be at DDO doing commentary. DDO, I believe, is going to be televised again this year locally. We've been in communication with
ValueNet
Fiber, so I haven't talked to Mo about this, but we've done it a lot in the past. They really just need a link from us, so that's probably going to happen. I'd assume. I don't know why it wouldn't be. We did it last year.
I wonder. Yeah. Also, I'm going to take up the idea of potentially a nightly recap. I know that's been something that's been held in various capacities throughout the years. That's something I'll be talking to Bobby Brown and Doug Bjerkes and a few others, where you may or may not see me do some form of nightly recap because DDO week is so incredibly fun. So there's a possibility we can make something like that happen. All right, guys, we're going to hold off all the details or all the questions that are coming in. You guys have good ones, so don't let them go anywhere, but we'll answer and get a little more intimate in the after show with you guys. I see you guys throwing a lot of stuff at us, so we're absolutely glad to address it, but we'll do that in the after show, where we also give away some free stuff. So we know you're going to come back for that action, because who doesn't love the F word? Everybody loves free, right?
Maybe.
All right.
Give away one of those destroyers.
That's on you. That would be silly. Don't do that. Don't do that. Worth way too much money. All right, guys. Thank you to Mo for joining us. Looking forward to another weekend. Thank you to Jonesboro, Brad, and his entire crew, all the Disc Golf Network, all the Disc Golf Pro Tour, the staff, the staff on the ground, all the spotters and the countless helpers that are out there making everything happen so that we could enjoy the live disc golf in Jonesboro. For Johnny V, myself, along with our guest Mo, this has been Smashbox TV episode 346. Stay tuned. We got more action for you, some freebies, and some silliness in the after show. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 346's After Show. Here we are, ready for some after show action. If somehow you're new here, I'm sorry. We'll start there. And how the after show normally goes, although there's no guarantees to this, we talk about disc golf and non-disc golf related topics or hot topics or rants, raves, reviews. Really just about anything is on the table. Could range from us living in our glory years of
the 90s.
The 90s. Could be old work stories from when we worked together at Best Buy but weren't nearly as friendly at the time, or maybe when we worked in the computer lab together in college when we did get a little closer. We also worked, we don't tell those stories that often, but we did work in the computer lab together. I know, shocker to some of you. Those were the days when the internet was just literally coming online.
Shocker, Johnny worked in a computer lab in college?
Yeah.
What?
Yes, I know. It is crazy, folks. So it could be a blast from the past, and then we could also talk about what's streaming on Hulu or dumb tweets that are made and everything in between. One of our favorite things, though, is when you guys give us chat live chat action. You ask questions or lead us in a direction where we may take it and run with it from there. So I'm going to get right to a few of them because I've seen them come in. Massive J had posted multiple times, asked if we had seen Silas Schultz's Instagram.
He's had some really funny ones in the past, and I don't know, I haven't seen them from this particular
Bro, catch up.
week.
They're as the kids say, fire. They're awesome, and I mean that with 100% sincerity. He just has a knack for doing what good Instagram content type makers do. I mean, he's very he's younger, and he is very not that you have to be young to make great content, but he makes full use of very cool editing and options in Instagram. And so yeah, please go check him out, Silas Schultz. He had done a few like highlight type pieces of Paul Ulibarri, Thomas Gilbert, and he's just doing, and he's got some really other funny stuff, as Johnny mentioned, that might be a little bit more long form, but yeah, he's got all the makings of being a young Instagram superstar, in addition to being a great golfer. At one point, we were on hole 12 or 14 this weekend, and he goes, "Oh, I really like your Disc Golf Guy logo that's embroidered on the back of my shirt. It's my Disc Golf Network shirt, and just in a little Disc Golf Guy logo on the back." He's like, that's awesome," or whatever he said. And then he made some other comment, and then Corey Merle said, "Yeah, how does that make you feel?" Because Silas being complimentary, also though knowing the kid is half my age, that's what I love about disc golf. And then he went on to say some very nice, very, very positive things. So Silas, I love you, buddy, and I know you're doing good work out there.
I loved watching your blogs. My parents would let me watch.
Yeah, it was something like along. He's like. Yeah, he made some comment along like, "Yeah, that was me. That was your blogs while I was growing up." And I'm just like, I'm glad he enjoyed. Their household enjoyed the comment, the content, but yes, still made me feel
old. Well, because you are.
I'm good with that.
We all are. That's okay.
All right. Patrick had said, "Terry, thoughts on player that you are interviewing after a win and they do not recognize their main disc manufacturer. Kat Sunday did not thank Prodigy. I would say 8 out of 10 she doesn't or don't."
Well, the funny thing is, I thought
Ricky,
your Ricky interview, like he missed him. He rattled off all of his other sponsors and then like paused, and I felt like you were like almost, I don't know if you were mouthing it because we can't see your face and it's probably got a mask on or something. But I'm waiting for him to say Innova, and then he eventually got to it in like almost like I would say round 2, but after a breath. And I was thinking like you rattled through every other sponsor, but your primary sponsor.
And fair or not, yes, of course, those are their main sponsors, and I'll say the same of Kat, and I will for Ricky. Dare we say everybody knows that their main sponsor is Innova and or Prodigy in this case, whatever. So maybe it's easy for them to slightly overlook that. That's usually the biggest logo on their shirt. And it's just this assumption, or it's a known thing, whereas some of these other sponsors are a little bit more either change out a little bit more often, or might be a newer company or something of that nature. I just feel like, yeah, and you're exactly right. Ricky got to the point of thanking them all, and I paused and I waited. And had he not said something, I literally was going to say, "and Innova," for him. And then I think somebody behind me actually turned around so that they could see the Innova logo on their shirt, and then Ricky blurted it out. So he got a little assist from the someone else out there. What do I think of that? Yeah, that's what I said. Like, I can understand how I don't. It's in no way I think an intentional disrespect. I think it's just they have other sponsors that aren't as known, and therefore they want to make sure they hit all those. And then it's like the elephant in the room that they just accidentally forget to mention them. It's never intentional, but I do understand and I will be there if I can to help interject if I think they are missing a significant or there's been a time or two, someone like Kyle Klein or a Schultz perhaps does very well, and I know like their dad had to drive them to the course that day, and they forget to thank their parents.
Yeah.
If it's appropriate, I'll sometimes help them out. So, all right. Isn't he too young for Insta? Shouldn't he be on TikTok? No, Tim. If you're talking about Silas, although he's good, he'll utilize both. Ulysses asks, JVD, I think I subscribed to Smashbox's Patreon a while back. I haven't seen my name in the credits, and I'm starting to wonder if I did something wrong. I believe I clicked the $3 subscription. I think you're a piece of crap. Where is my name?
Well, you add
Okay,
a little bit there.
Okay, a little.
Ulysses, you did not do anything wrong. Technically, your name is in the credits.
Just not your username.
But just not it. No, it is your username and not thing. I believe your username is like Desert Fox 591.
Oh, don't dox him.
I hope that's not his password to things because that's his username. And your email is this, and your address is this. Out of Texas. So that's why I grab all the usernames, because I don't necessarily know if everyone wants their real name out there based on their address, and we don't always get that.
You don't think his name is Desert Fox?
I don't believe so. I don't know. I mean, it's from Texas. He could be Native American or
anything.
Indian. I don't know what the proper term is these days, and I feel like whatever I say is wrong. So, in general, but yeah, it's Desert Fox 591, I think, Ulysses. Unless we have a different Ulysses in
we have multiple?
You never know.
It's possible.
It's possible. But yeah, that's the name we have for you is Desert Fox 591.
So always been in the credits.
It has been in the credits for a long time. Because I don't update the credits very often.
Why don't you capitalize his name?
Because that's how it comes in on here. So if I had to go through and correct everything, I wouldn't. But Chris Stillwell, his name comes whatever.
He doesn't Chris, do you not feel enough of yourself that you are a proper name and you capitalize your first and last name, Chris?
That's just how it comes through on our Patreon list. Just I see there's a few other people whose last names aren't capitalized, and that might just be how they put it in there. So that is how I leave it. Because some people have things like,
and you don't fix anything.
Carolina Chainbanger. He's in there, and I'm not going to put his actual name because I'm assuming they want Carolina Chainbanger.
Okay.
So that I literally copy and paste. So that is Ulysses. That is where it is. Assuming that you are the Ulysses that is in our list from Texas. So
okay. So we're out there, and of course,
I got you.
We appreciate
Just
you.
know that it's you.
Right. Looking through the board, I'm going to see if there's anything else that we have in there. Y'all started the Geek Squad.
No, we were pre-Geek Squad.
Yeah,
Pre-Geek Squad.
Yeah, did not exist at the time. Yes, we certainly talk about 90s music. That has happened in the past, for sure. Twitch subscribers entered in the giveaway.
Are Twitch subscribers entered in the giveaway?
If they are Patreon subscribers and supporters. If they are, I mean, if you watch us via Twitch, but you subscribe to our Patreon, that's what matters. All of everyone else doesn't matter for the giveaways. So, if I'm going to be blunt in that way.
Cody Garner asks, back to contracts and such. Does anyone have an idea of what kind of help an FPO touring pro gets? A name like Heather Young or Kona or Fakis. We see what they are cashing at, not much at times. I don't think it's a big surprise to say that most of their support probably comes from their Tour Series discs. I'm sure a lot of them probably have some sort of monthly stipend in those particular names, Heather, Kona, and Lisa. But I couldn't even fathom to guess if that was $1,000 a month or $5,000 a month. I don't know. But I will say that if you want to support those players, a majority of their income probably comes from their Tour Series discs.
Yes, that is. I don't know if majority. I don't know if I can if I would necessarily throw that word out there, but obviously their Tour Series disc goes to directly supporting them, so that is an avenue of support. So that would be a good thing to do for sure. Alexis Mondahano started thanking Innova, but corrected herself to Discraft in a recent interview. was a real moment. I mean, to be fair, like that's completely understandable. She's been sponsored by them for years. It probably rolled right off her tongue as just purely habit. And I would not in any way, shape, or form hold that against her. She's just switched from Discraft. Now, if in 5 years she does that and she's still with Discraft, then okay, then that might be a little bit weird. But I wouldn't even, honestly, I wouldn't even bat an eye. I will admit this, which is kind of related. My number one fear, and I've done it, and I've completed this, my number one fear for the longest time, when we were rarely live and in a booth, which might have only been 5 or 8 or 10 times in a year for the first couple years, or doing any kind of announcing, my number one mistake is to misname the tournament and or its presenting sponsor. Hey, because I think one time I said at the Memorial, presented by Innova. I think I literally uttered that once.
Like it would be one thing. Like I could understand the MVP Open because
which has changed multiple times.
You know, it used to be 5 MVP, but the
to
Memorial,
go dead wrong. Yes, I know. Trust me.
The Memorial has never been, as long as we've been around, sponsored by anything other than Discraft.
I know. That's why it's that much dumber when I did it.
Yeah, of all events.
That used to be.
Yeah.
And now, again, just maybe reps, but I no longer stress over doing that. That's not to say I won't do it again. But that used to be my number one fear because it feels so dumb / insulting to the event is to accidentally name either the event or its presenting sponsor. Now, when one changes, like you said, like MVP, or like a little bit longer or more challenging one, this is the Play It Again Sports Jonesboro Open presented by Prodigy. That's a mouthful. Mm-hmm. And next year it might only be presented by just Prodigy, or might only have Played Again in the name. So there's where some of the, but I think my biggest, one of my biggest ever was, or maybe it was the USDGC presented by Discraft. Whatever I did, it was absolutely the dumbest, wrongest thing ever. So I'm kind of over that. So my point there is I can empathize a little bit here, or entirely, with Alexis. That's my point.
All right, we'll go away from go away from something else. What do you guys think are the 10 most fun courses in Wisconsin? Not the best courses necessarily, but the most fun. That's difficult because I mean, fun is relative depending on. I have an affinity for Plowman Park, where we grew up and played.
Mm-hmm. Not together.
No, we never. Not that we've never played that course together, but we did not grow up playing it together. I think that's a fun course. Sandy Point, of course, is a fun course. I think Zobel is a fun course. Mm-hmm. It's a good course.
It's a good course.
It's a good course
and
as
then
well.
when it's good, it makes it that much easier to be fun.
Yeah, I think that tends to be a
well-designed course.
Fun course. Yep. For me, Elver Park from the shorts is a fun course. Not so much from the longs. I don't enjoy it nearly as much. It's a lot more difficult. Trying to think of any other ones that I really like that I have a lot of fun at. I mean, Valley View's fun because it's so short and it's so nearby, easy. But
yeah.
Like
Dretska, I feel like depending on the configuration can be fun. And you know, I mean, the old cliche, whether others say it or just me, like birdies are fun. So it's easy to equate an easy course to then therefore being fun, kind of like you just said about Valley View. Like it's not a good course. It's just really not. Aesthetically it's not. Yeah. Conditions wise, amenities, it's not good, but it can be fun if you're like
to rack up possible aces or a lot of birdies.
So that one certainly, I could agree with that. Mm-hmm. But that's where, like, I don't think Brown Deer, for instance, is a great course, but I don't consider it fun.
No.
Even if I shot really well on it, I still don't consider it fun because it kind of feels like a mental grind.
It is.
And you could go out and shoot course record, and I still don't think you'd say it's fun, even though it's one of the best courses. So
100%.
Kind of funny. GB's B either way, thank you so much for the super chat as well, along with everyone else who's been on board with the super chats tonight. Thank you very much. Asking then, that's a good way for us to for sure see your question.
I can get to it ASAP.
Who is the next big contract player money-wise in your opinion? Thanks, guys, for the content and making disc golf a better sport to follow. Well, thank you. Next big contract, which is kind of tough because we rarely do we know details of contracts. I mean, we really know the details of like 2 contracts, 1, 2.
Publicly, sure.
Yeah. I mean, so who's going to get the next big contract? I mean, we don't know how big James Conrad's contract. He could possibly have the second largest contract in disc golf, and we don't know because the details aren't at our fingertips or provided. Yeah, that is a good question though.
It would make sense to say Ricky. Like, I know Ricky's still in a contract, but it wouldn't shock me to see that renegotiation after Paul's.
And then maybe made more public?
Made more public.
Sure.
So, let's just play pretend. Paul's making 10 million in 10 years. If Ricky came out and said, hey, guess what? I'm locked in for 10 years. I'm going to make $5 million or something.
Sure.
Just throw a number out there. I know the question you asked Mo earlier about is Ricky and Paul, what's Ricky worth, so to speak? And you're worth what you're worth. But, Paul pushes plastic like none other. That's why Paul's worth what he is. I mean, you could argue that, and we've made this argument, that Ricky is a better overall player than Paul right now. Doesn't mean he should be getting paid the same if you can't push that plastic. So, a couple other questions.
Real quick though, is there a little bit of a snowball effect there where if Ricky came out tomorrow and said, hey, for the next 10 years, I'm making 12 million. We'll make up a number. Let's just say it's better than Paul. Does therefore his stock, his plastic, does anything then have a more perceived value and or become more sought after?
It could.
When you say, hey, guess what? Ricky's making 15 million over the next 10 years. That means somebody's putting more value on him. Therefore, some people may be like, dude, I have to now go buy more of his discs because he's clearly the better player, and I follow the best. I want to throw what the best throws, and they're looking at it from that perspective. Is there a little bit of a self-fulfilling, like, there a little bit of snowball effect there?
That could happen. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I mean, look at Paul was pushing a ton of plastic for Innova before he got his big Discraft contract. I'm sure Paul's contract with Innova was fine. Clearly not as fine as what he said. 4 years, $1 million, fine. Which is why one of the reasons he probably moved to Discraft. So having Paul push all that plastic, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there would be some spillover if Ricky suddenly announced like this huge contract and Innova came out and said, yeah, Ricky's going to get his own line of discs and, we're going to have the Raptor legs and what else. But I'm sure that would increase sales. But
yeah,
that's a tough bridge to go out on.
Yeah.
Of all the major tour stops, which one do you guys think would be the most fun for a Noodle Armor to make a pilgrimage to?
Just to play, I assume, if you're mentioning...
If you're just going to play for fun or you're going to actually play the tournament. I mean, if you could play the tournament, maybe you're playing the AM side of the tournament if you're a Noodle Armor. And when you say major tour stops, I'm assuming you mean elite level and above. I think MVP. I think you got to go to Maple Hill. I mean, that's a tough course, but if you're looking for most fun, it's probably going to be Maple Hill. Just the amenities, the atmosphere. Even if you're there on a Saturday, an average Saturday, Maple Hill probably has more atmosphere than almost any other course on tour. Almost during the event, even probably, but no, not quite that bad. Maple Hill is just so iconic. I think that's, if you have the choice, that's where you go.
Either that or go to Sula. I mean, that's incredible. No, just jaunt over to Norway. No, I would say obviously a lot of them have great atmosphere. Preserve, I'll just say you're not going to lose a disc. And
you could on hole 18.
Yeah, you could, but I mean, there's only one water carry really there, and you're probably just not going to lose the disc. I think in terms of like, that kind of style. If you're concerned about that, I think of the Preserve. Ledgestone, again, there's a lot of atmosphere there. If you're playing on the AM side, they're going to have courses that are in fact tailored to the AMs if you can actually get into the event. So, but I will say Ledgestone, more than any other event on the Pro Tour, Ledgestone has an overall week-long atmosphere.
Like GBO.
Like a GBO from the National Tour. It's something's going on every day, every night, before the event, during the event. Like, there is nonstop activity. And so if you're looking for those social interactions and you're looking for that type of stuff, then that's where, out of every event, you'd have to give Ledgestone the nod, because there's just so much stuff going on. And, of course, there's great feelings and ambiance and culture and everything at a lot of these all the events, but in that sense, Ledgestone really took a page out of MVP's playbook of let's have extracurriculars all the time so everybody can be 100% entertained every minute you're here if you choose. I feel like that's what those two events kind of carry it in that way.
Thoughts on having a Worlds when it's probably not going to have any Europeans at this point? Seems if the PDGA has a Worlds, all countries should be present. Go ahead. I'll let you answer that.
I understand that. I do. But at the same time, we're in a very unique situation with the pandemic of last year and then still into this year. And I understand it's going to probably present the same challenges this year. However, I don't feel like you can take away the world championship opportunity. Let me back up. I would have been okay if they had it last year.
Me too.
I don't think it should have been canceled last year. I understand that it was. And that's not going to be my hill to die on, so to speak. I can understand and support that it was, but I still don't know that it should have been. That's barring the tournament organizers and all that other stuff could pull it off. Let me be very clear about that. I'm not like, no, the tournament organizers shouldn't have been such babies. And I'm just saying if they wanted to do it and could have done it in their own way and still have pulled it off, I would have been fully in support of that. I don't think you can put off another World Championships this year because some players cannot attend. I also understand there are more Europeans now, more than ever, have a legitimate chance to win these titles, FPO and NPO. They have more of a chance now than ever before, but I don't feel like you also should take away the opportunity for the majority of these players that are here. I don't support that. So I don't know. We also call the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the world champions in football. And I've never seen another football team from any other country eligible to even be in the Super Bowl. So world title, I don't know. We also have plenty of Europeans that can and have competed at the United States Disc Golf Championships. So, I mean, I don't want to say what's in a name, but what's in a name?
Ray asks, is this one asterisked?
No.
The funny thing is, no, in general. Not especially not for MPO. You could make the argument for FPO more so than MPO. That three of the top, we'll say 5 women in our sport cannot come to play. It's not that way in MPO. Like the top 10 players for MPO are all Americans. Like the Europeans have some great players, but I don't think they break the top 10 right now.
Sure, but we know though a 10-10 rated player could win Worlds.
Sure,
and they could be from any country.
Sure.
So
I congratulations, I could beat LeBron James at horse.
Sure,
but it's not going to happen. Like it just. I mean, there's a slim chance of it.
I agree,
but And I'm bad at basketball, people.
Mhm.
I'm 6'6". I'm
Yep,
bad
terrible.
at basketball.
Can't dunk.
Not anymore. No, I'm fat and old. I could dunk with a small ball when I was.
I
in
was
high
just
school.
getting not a regular ball though.
No.
Okay.
No.
Anyway, go
It
on.
was a small ball. I was a swimmer, so I had good strong legs, and I'm 6'6", so it helps.
The 6'6" part should be enough to do it.
You'd be surprised. Whatever. But like again, when you that'd be like saying half the NFL next year can't play in the Super Bowl. It gets knocked out of the game. Is there an asterisk next to the Super Bowl because half the best players can't play? Like,
No.
Yes, there would be, hands down. And I think that's whoever wins this year is going to earn it. Period.
So did we asterisk the
Does Barry
World
Bonds?
Series from last year?
Why?
That's what I'm asking, because there was a pandemic and they only played half the games.
But everybody still had the chance to play the games.
Not the people that got sick and had COVID. I mean, there were teams that had COVID and couldn't play.
There were not entire teams that had COVID.
I'm just saying, wherever you're drawing this line is 100% subjective.
Yes.
Oh, well, they missed 10 games. Well, they missed these people missed 12 games, or this guy was sick for 2 months. I mean,
sure.
If it's being offered and it's available, then it counts. Just like the World Championship, there is no asterisk. Whoever wins Worlds this year is what it is. Because again, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What's the solution?
There is none. No, I'm saying, like I said, everyone.
Let's take this a step further. Let's go to a slightly different, more obscure extreme.
Okay.
And say 2022 is 100% normal for the whole world, right? In 2022, a week before Worlds, when all the Europeans are about to come over, or 2 weeks before, whatever, they're about to come over, and something crazy happens in the world, and let's call it a war. A war happens, and every airport outside of the U.S. is shut down. Do we not have Worlds that year?
I think we still have Worlds.
Is there an asterisk on that one?
Probably.
No. And this might be, and I apologize if there's other people in every country outside of the U.S. right now saying I'm a self-centered, egotistical a-hole because this is my view on it. But when the majority of the players, more than a majority of the players, and the event is happening here, there's always going to be a challenge for someone to get here.
Yeah.
Paul Macbeth has a migraine for the first 3 rounds of Worlds. Is there an asterisk on it?
No. Is he?
I mean, that doesn't seem
fair. How
fair.
about this, Terry? European Open. They say it's going to run and it's going to be a major. Oh, guess what? No Americans can come because
of the pandemic.
Yeah, and
okay.
And guess what? We can only have Finns. Is there an asterisk on the winner?
If
the field is 12 people, congratulations. Your major is as valid as everyone else's. No, period. That's asterisk. Period.
Okay, so only European countries would not. Yeah. At what point does it not get the asterisk? That's my point. Is we could dice it a million ways to find when somebody thinks there should or shouldn't be an asterisk on it.
If everybody can play, I mean. Let's put this: if all the top players can play,
5 years ago, we didn't care about European women and if they were here or not. Like, and we care about them and like them and love them. I'm just saying,
I know
we weren't holding up events because they couldn't be here.
Correct.
So now, because we have a handful of really good ones,
I think the event should go on and still play. But there's still going to be a argument of an asterisk. Does Mark McGwire have the home run record? He cheated.
Okay.
Is there an asterisk next to it?
Cheating. I feel like
no.
Cheating though
Define cheating.
Well, exactly. Did he? I mean, by event or by MLB standards, did he cheat?
Yes. I mean.
Okay. Then an asterisk's a different story.
He was caught later, but can you verify?
I'm not talking about cheating though.
I'm just saying. I mean, whether you like it or not, the MPO field is like. Your best players in the world are gonna be able to show up. And FPO, I'm sorry, like you could make the argument that only 2 of the top 5 are gonna be there. And
Okay.
is it still a
So
great,
what's the limit?
Is it still a great win? Yeah. If Kat and Paige if Kat shoots 5, 10, 30 rated rounds to win Worlds, awesome. And she probably would have won it no matter who's there. But every situation is different. I still think that for FPO, there's going to be a slight shadow or asterisk, whatever you want to call it, on that win. If you can't have a majority of the field eligible to play, the majority of your top players eligible to play.
51%. 51% is the number. That's my point. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just saying where we draw that line is 100% subjective.
Yeah, there is no distinct line. And I'm with you 100% that Worlds should have gone on. It should have gone on last year. Because you can't stop it just because people can't come and play. You still play it. You still award a champion, but
it's invalidated. It doesn't carry the weight.
Correct. It doesn't carry the weight. I like it or not, and I know it sucks. Jeremy Colling's USDGC win doesn't carry the same weight as somebody else's because it was shortened. Now it's slight, it's super minor, but a lot of people would look at that and go, "God, man, Eagle was really."
Well, the people that know,
yeah, correct.
I mean, somebody would have to even know that.
You'd have to know that in the future, but come to be like, "Wow, man, Eagle was really making a run there, and it was taken away. Like he didn't have that opportunity because it was cut." And man, a couple more holes, and Eagle could have had that. Could have, should have, maybe didn't, maybe wouldn't have. But like it or not, there is still that slight, minuscule, tiny thing that 3-round event was cut short, and it's there. Whether you like it or not, there's always that. For us, for people that are in the know, there's a shadow there. Now, this in 20 years, that could be gone. I'm sure there are things that happened in sports 40 years ago that other people at the time were going, wow, man.
Bart Starr would have won his third Super Bowl, but his grandma died, so he went to the funeral. Like,
correct.
Is there an asterisk on that Super Bowl?
No.
Like, that's my point. Is like, I could give you a million reasons why we could come up with asterisks. So the question is, who gets to determine what the asterisks are and when they're validated?
It's a societal thing. I may say there is, and I'm looking at a frozen picture of Mo. Mo might tell me no. Neither of us are right.
I agree with that.
Just saying. All right, let's move on from this conversation.
So I don't know if they're going to be here.
No, they're not. I'll say it right now. I don't think they're coming.
Yeah, and Galactic's the same with Colton and Waco from last year. I mean, any event that gets cut short for any reason the conversation could be had, and I feel like all you can do is you can play what's in front of you and what's available to you. And if you win, taking away anything short of that,
I'm going to take that win 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a slight difference between an event cut an entire round short and everyone knew ahead of time, as opposed to a round, your final round that was cut in the middle of a round. Like, oh, guess what? Everyone has to stop. And you could look and be like, dude, shit, I had like 8 birdies in a row. And, or imagine this. Imagine someone is ahead. Like, Eagle was ahead of Coling at the time it was called. And suddenly, Eagle goes on a tear, and he's 5 strokes ahead of Germ with, I don't know, I forget how many holes you need to have a complete round. 9?
Usually 12 or 13.
And we're at the 10th or 11th hole. Lightning strikes. They call it. And Eagle is 5 strokes ahead. He's made up a huge game. Coling has gone bogey, 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 bogey. Is there an asterisk there for you? Because Eagle was so far ahead that it was almost inevitable he probably would have won, but it was cut, and those no longer count.
The rules are the rules.
I'm not denying that those are the rules, and I'm not denying that in that situation you award the winner to somebody, but you don't think everyone's going to look at that and go like, well, did he? I mean, that person was like,
woulda, coulda, shoulda.
That's not the situation that obviously.
If Bartman wouldn't have interfered with that damn fly ball, right?
I know.
I mean.
I bet you a lot of Cubs would put an asterisk on that game.
Of course they would, but
that's
the rules are the rules. In that sense, I feel like you can make up a million reasons, and some more valid than others. But I could make up a million reasons to throw asterisks around if that's what we're going to do.
Of course, and if every one of the Europeans is allowed in and they choose not to come, that's a whole different story. There's plenty of people that might choose not to come.
All right, reading a few more comments here. Terry, we need more East Coast events like Chili near Rochester. You like how I actually even nailed that one too?
Chili? Yeah.
To use the
chili.
to use a little what's the word when you use surrounding words to
Context?
Context. Yeah, there you go. Wow, thanks.
Maybe you needed some more words around that so you could figure out what word that was.
But not to my credit, not everybody would have nailed that one. I think Salonin, Bloomrose, and Tatar are top 3 right now, but no asterisks. Asterisks are boring.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not disagreeing. Let me also just say this. I understand the argument, and I'm not taking anything away from them, and I want them here, and I do think it makes for a better Worlds and a better experience and everything else. I agree with all of that. And I think every one of those 3 has absolutely a chance to win. But I could also say, so does Esther Schultz.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I don't disagree. I mean, in one of the Discords, there was talk of why DGN still uses individual cell connections for each camera and not some sort of wireless local network and then beam it back. Is it even doable? No. We don't use individual cell connections. It is a bonded cell connection with between 4 and 8 connections, depending on which device we're using. But yeah, a local wireless network would be very, very difficult to build out on a course in the time that we have. And then even then, you would need the control room somewhere where you can easily beam it to, or to like again, this is the talk about satellite. Everyone's like, well, get a satellite out there.
Satellite truck, bro. That's all you need. Just get a satellite truck.
Doesn't help us out at all.
You get 2 of them. I know a friend.
I know a friend, because ultimately we're me and Mo and Gary and Chuck. That's where the pieces are put together. Like every one of the cameramen is a piece, but getting that piece to us, we need to assemble it. So that's the hard part. That link from the camera to the control room, and unless we're running cables to each camera, or dropping spots, or running unless you drop a fiber line and run it out there. Regular Ethernet is only 330 feet technically. A fiber line could go out there, but then you have to get there a week, 2-3 weeks, and run thousands of feet of fiber. It's just not logistically reasonable, which is why we're still using cellular signal.
And a quick side note, multi-million and billion-dollar media companies use some of the same technology that we do.
Yep.
And I guess I'll throw it on top of that. A lot of them, being maybe news organizations, have different or lesser challenges than we do, because they don't have 2 or 4 people running around up and down fairways. And I'm not making excuses or looking for a pat on the back. I'm just saying, like, imagine going someplace and like your sideline reporter, your reporter, and your camera person are all but stationary for 6 to 8 hours, and they can find the best spots and make things happen, as opposed to the millions of things that, not millions, the plethora of things that are going on when talking about traversing around an entire course. And it is funny to talk to other people in any form of broadcast industry, the little interaction Johnny or I may have with people, and you explain what we're doing. And somebody just said it the other day. They're like, yeah, I used to film for, I think he had said football or something like that, one of our cameramen. He's like, yeah, like everybody's on a field in front of you. Like there's only so many places a ball can go, and the players, like everything's in front of you as opposed to what we're doing. So clearly, not easy. All right. Mike says, you guys can use my 5G hotspot next time if you want. Well, we appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
I hope it works out in the middle of nowhere.
Cody asks, are Paige and Paul sharing the same story at Smashbox TV? Lots of money takeaways, take away some drive. Just asking what we were talking about earlier. No, I think Paige has a lot on her plate, but by the things she has openly said. I think she just has a lot of things going on up in her noggin that have distracted her and maybe distracted or taken away from some of her focus. That may or may not be money related. I don't think that it is. I think there's just other life things going on that aren't necessarily bad. I just think she's got a lot to juggle, and she kind of talked about that in the presser as to having a lot of stuff on her plate and how she needs to just dial in and focus more on her actual competitive play. I think that's kind of the background to it, or the main story there. Sam says, as far as Starlink working at scale, still waiting on my solar roof. Oh, Elon is failing you. Is he going to hand deliver it?
He might. I've heard good things about Starlink. Actually, a lot of the reviews that I've been reading are good. They do geo restrict it to, I think, is it like 10 miles of your house or something? So that you can't go outside of that. I think that's what I saw they're starting to do. Some sort of geo restriction around your house, or like the residence that you have it for. So you can't just take it everywhere with you. You can't just throw it on a RV and roll around.
Okay, sure.
And now maybe that's an option in the future, and right now they're still doing it. But I have heard that they're doing some geo restrictions on that. And something like that, depending on how small you can get it, could work for like a studio maybe that you want on site or anything like that. But the control room, like, again, always the hard part, getting the camera signals back to us wherever we are, whether we're in the woods or whether we're in Japan or whether we're in Milwaukee. Like, it almost doesn't matter unless you can physically run a cable between the two of us. It doesn't matter where we are. Hi to Hannah Macbeth, who was out there. She was one of two Facebook viewers that currently stayed online.
Wow. So, Hannah, I didn't see her name pop up on her super chat. So
no, well,
that's enough talking about her.
She's not in.
That's enough. Nope, don't mention her again.
I don't know if she's still watching this. I have to scroll back a ways. Someone asked, why isn't Sexton playing as much? COVID stuff still. His touring is limited this year. I know it was almost nil last year. It's just limited this year. I think he'll probably pick it up again next year, but we're happy to have him in the booth. I think he's a solid addition.
Yeah, his wife is a doctor, and so he is taking exposure to COVID as, I don't want to say as serious as you can, but I mean they're taking it they're very, very, very diligent and particular with it. So that's why you're not seeing him out on the road touring and interacting with hundreds or thousands of people potentially. That's the background to that.
And yes, I did forget. It had nothing to do with his asterisk. Barry Bonds, I think, is the single season home run record holder.
Yeah, sure. I don't believe that.
Yeah,
sure.
Him, Mark McGwire,
Sosa,
Sammy Sosa.
Sure. I just need Canseco back. Okay.
Bash brother.
Ray had asked, thoughts on big arms needing to take more time off between events to prevent long-term arm injury. Will we see Tommy John surgeries like pitchers in baseball? Look at Simon. Yeah, I think that is become and will continue to be a conversation piece. Very much so. And it's not just a look into decade, but let's face it, that courses used to be long when they were 6,000 and 7,000 feet, maybe 8,000 or whatever. And now on the regular, we're watching 10 and 9, 10, 11, 12,000 foot courses now. We've also transitioned from the previous decades of multiple rounds in a single day to where now players are only playing almost always just one round a day at our most elite levels. They're playing just one round a day. So that's maybe one of the trade-offs that we've seen, but there's more on the line. There's more serious touring, so people are maybe competing and practicing harder. So you actually might, by the time you left Jonesboro, you probably had at least 5 rounds and as many as 7 rounds on that course. 3 you played and at least 2 practice rounds. If you think about it, yeah, that kind of someone like Johnny and I who never play hardly anymore, like thinking about playing 5 rounds at Jonesboro right now, it kind of almost hurts my arm just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So you're right. Is that something they can look into? Well, hopefully they're taking advantage of Seth Muncy and Disc Golf Strong to be preventative, to be strength and conditioning and training and all of those types of things. Hopefully they're doing all of those things. They have Seth right now. A huge shout out to Seth, who I talked to about my heel, which has been hurting lately. They have Seth like at their disposal thanks to the collaboration and the partnership of the Pro Tour. So you are absolutely silly not to go talk to Seth if you are one of our top athletes right now. You have him, you have his attention and his I'll say energy, but you have his expertise at your fingertips as part of being on the Pro Tour. So if you're not talking to him about something, assuming you like and or respect him, you should be.
Someone had asked earlier about like Tommy John surgery.
Sure.
And I don't, and let me say this, I don't think I'm a medical professional. I watched a lot.
I listened to some of your COVID conversations. You're more a distinguished and certified than some other COVID people I've listened to.
That's
so
true.
I will consider you a medical expert. Go
I
on.
did watch a lot of Scrubs.
Dr. Johnny.
I did watch a lot of Scrubs.
Yes,
so
a lot of Scrubs.
One of my favorites. I don't know if it's the same type of stress throwing a baseball versus throwing a disc based on the bend of the elbow. Now, if you were going to tell me forehands probably put a similar stress on the elbow just based on form that an overhand pitch does, just because how you bend, as opposed to a backhand. Not to say that the backhand can't cause stress. I'm sure it certainly does in shoulder, back, elbow. But someone had mentioned Tommy John surgery particularly. I think you're more than likely going to see that in someone who throws primarily forehand than someone who throws backhand. Because you don't hear about a lot of Tommy John surgery in tennis. Instead, you hear about like tennis elbow and stuff like that. Because I just think it's a different motion. You're putting different stresses. But I will consult my my Grey's Anatomy medical guide.
Yes.
I'll never ever.
Or check with Mo. You know, he's down at I don't even name it. Chicago Hope.
Or
that
ER, which was based
ER?
in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. There's probably a Law and Order hospital edition somewhere too.
No, there's not, Terry. I know all the Law and Orders.
Big shout out, Kinga. Out of Australia is out there on the board. We love you, buddy. He says, just finishing up an article on an interview with Seth Muncie. We talked a lot about throw count, and I will not spoil anything I've heard about throw count before, but Seth has a very interesting take and analogy for throw count with regard to relating it to pitchers and as well as disc golfers. So I won't pretend like I'm any more versed on it than that. But yeah, look for that article by Kinga because I'm sure they get into it quite well. I've heard Seth talk about it. It's interesting. He's got such a great background in sports and professional sports and working with sports teams and what he's done that when he brings that to disc golf specifically, I love hearing how he breaks things down and gives us examples and analogies.
Something I don't agree with, Razorhausen says the tour schedule is a good point. Maybe not have 3 bomber courses in a row. No, I disagree. I think you put the best courses out there, and it's up to the player to decide whether or not they want to play them and do it.
Yeah, you can't.
I have no problem if we were to have Goat Hill followed up by Ledgestone followed up by Jonesboro. I think those are
sure.
That's
just back to back.
That's just what that's life. And if you don't want to compete in that, that's up to you.
Yeah, and I will to kind of piggyback on that. We are certainly not at a point in disc golf, and maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't, where we can really even be that picky
about courses.
If it's a good course and if it's geographically located and it can be run in a time that is time sensitive to the rest of the tour and cohesive to the rest of the tour. And you might be right. Maybe in 5 or 10 or 50 years, they're actually saying, hey, we're going to go to a wooded course this weekend, and next weekend it's a little bit shorter, it's more technical and wooded, and the weekend after that, this one's wide open. And by all means, if we have that luxury in 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 years to actually be that specific, great. But I would not hold your breath on it. It's right now. I don't want to just say we take what we can get. We've got great courses, but we cannot get that finite at this point.
You are tasked with stocking the Ken Clamo merch site with T-shirts. How many do you order to not sell out at launch day? 12.
Wow. That's a great question.
I just don't think there's a lot of demand for Ken Climo t-shirts.
T-shirts or
T-shirts.
or polos?
It says merch site with t-shirts.
Your test with how many do you order to not sell out on launch day? I'm not gonna lie, I love the question.
I just don't think there's a big demand.
Are you?
for that.
You're second Ken Climo merch site. I was gonna say, which site is it going on? Because that matters. If it's going on Innova's, if it's strictly kenclimo.com, which used to exist, I don't know if that still exists or not, but kenclimo.com versus say dgpt.com/shop. There's a free plug. Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know.
Okay.
Again, 12. That's my answer. I don't think you sell 12 Ken Climo t-shirts.
I think you do. Yeah, you do. You do. Just even off our board, we've got more than enough people that would pick one of those up off the board. Now, granted, I understand if you came into the sport after a certain age, you're not concerned about that. But I think we have enough. I think we have enough diehard old school fans that get on board with that. All right. I think the PDGA should treat their players like the NFL does QBs. Big throwers draw eyeballs and should be protected.
I think it's up to the player.
Be protected in what way, though? And then I'll just follow up the question with, what's that number? Are we going to say, well, 9,000 feet is too long? Should they have a 6,000 foot course the next weekend? Like, where are you? What is that number? And what if does it matter if it's largely up and downhill shots? What if it's all flat? I mean, you're clearly playing in a course in, we'll say, Illinois or Florida is likely not going to be is physically demanding unless it's heat in Florida. It's not going to be physically as demanding as playing a mountain course in California or Utah or something. I don't know where you draw those lines.
Ken Climo is going to be the guest on Running It with Nate Sexton coming out this Friday. So if you're interested in hearing some Kenny, by all means, download that. I probably will be in listening to it myself.
Yeah. Cody asked, do you know why Climo isn't active on tour anymore? He had back and or hip issues. I don't think he had fully recovered from all of those. And he's just very much built like, if I can't compete at my best, I don't want to be out there competing. I feel like there's probably some pride in that of, I'm arguably the greatest of all time, depending on who you talk to. And I don't want to go out there and play the golf if it's not at my physical best at my time or age or whatever. I don't think Ken would be, if Ken was 100% healthy, he'd be out playing golf. If he was 100% healthy and whatever division he feels comfortable in on that given weekend, he'd be out there. He's a fierce competitor and he'd be battling. I feel like he thinks I'm at 60%. I don't want to go out there and not play my best, regardless of age, so to speak. David John says, good afternoon from Koh Phangan. I don't know how to pronounce that island in Thailand, David John, but glad you're with us. Hope you're doing well out there, buddy. Always, well, you're not our furthest listener. We got Australia in the house, but glad you're with us, buddy. Cody says, if Climo showed up to a DGPT event and finished top 10, I would freak out. I think a lot of people would, because sadly enough, a lot of people would be like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't, but plenty of people would. Hip, as they're saying, I used to watch Climo play all the Masters Cup in the early 2000s. Clearly incredible competitor there everywhere he went. Who's the power broker? What's in Sam's box?
The power broker, I think it's the blonde.
Ooh.
I do.
What's this referencing?
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Mm.
And in Sam's box, clearly some sort of vibranium suit. I think that it's going to be. I haven't seen anything, but my guess is that it's going to probably. It's got to be a new Falcon suit, but my guess is going to be themed Captain America-ish. He's going to take over the shield. All right. That's okay, Tarek.
I know. I'm glad. I'm glad I don't know. Just like you're glad you don't know if I reference Charlie D'Amelio. So
I at least know kind of who that is. But
I was actually going to say her sister's name, who I can't remember. But anyway, doesn't matter. That's what makes this work. You guys are asking how tall Climo is. Was he 6'3" or 6'6"? Do you feel like he was your height, or was he a little?
Just
shorter?
A hair shorter, I think, than me. So I think he's 6'3", 6'4",
somewhere around there. There was a good question in here. I apologize. Let me go back to it.
Is any superhero beating Captain America at disc golf? No. Dude can throw cap shield. Like, I mean, maybe now. Maybe Falcon. I mean, he did a lot of practicing. He's pretty good with that shield. But no, I think Captain America's got that.
Cody, I'll answer this one head on. Will the DGPT ever have a Masters division?
Yes.
No.
Really?
No.
Never?
Never.
I'm not going to say never.
No. There will be. It will be a different series. I don't even know if it'll be. I don't think it'd be. No. No. There's too much work to be done in FPO and MPO for us to.
I'm not going to say never.
Sideways into Masters, pro Masters of any kind. I don't see it. It will be a separate entity, a separate tour, a separate organization.
I don't know about that.
No, the pro tour, and I understand there's pro Masters, obviously. No, there's too much work. There's just too much work to be done. We're trying to build, to feature and highlight the sport's premier.
I agree, but if you told me in 20 years that the disc golf pro, the DGPT has expanded to run another tour, that focuses that we have resources, and that
I understand. I mean,
I think
would I bet my disc collection on it? No.
Oh, see, there you go.
No, but I would. I'd bet a set of 2016 Disc Golf Pro Tour cards on it, which apparently are worth a lot of money. I've been informed.
Yeah, they are.
My boxes of them. No, I don't see it. I don't see it in. I was gonna say our lifetime. That's still quite a ways.
I hope so.
I don't think though. We'll see it in our lifetime. I won't say never. I don't.
I think the odds are very slim. I would give it a 5% chance. But that is above never. And again, if you told me in 20 years, 10, not quite 10, I think 10 would be optimistic. If you told me in 20 years that we had a Masters Tour and it's run by the DGPT, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me that it's the same entity that's running that. Because the way I see it, let's just say optimal, things progress. Pro Tour is very successful over the next 5 years. Awesome. We have all these resources now. The first step, if you want to start breaking things out, is FPO gets their own tour.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that happens. Cool. In 5 to 10 or 15 years. Awesome. We have now expanded it, so we have 2 full tours. 72 and 72 of the best players. What's the next step? A Masters
Growing
tour.
both of those.
No, to what? Growing what? Like if you have a full tour of 72 of the best players, what growing it might be a Masters tour.
Growing it or enriching it. That's a better word. Enriching those two
Maybe.
to continue to be better, wealthier, more lucrative.
That's going to be a business decision, because
I think that
if you look at the numbers and say, oh gosh, 40 to 50-year-olds have a lot of disposable income, and currently that tour, maybe that's worthwhile. Maybe that's a worthwhile tour to have. Maybe we can get more viewers with that than we can.
No.
I'm just saying. I know. I know you and I. That's fine. We can differ. Neither of us are going to be right or wrong on this, probably.
No,
but
one of us is right.
No, because both of us have said there's a chance.
Yeah, no.
So I'm just saying. Like, I don't think it's
the only thing I'd ask you
but-
then is, and I know you don't watch any golf, but I would say, when's the last time you watched senior golf?
Never. Like, it's probably been 5 to 10 years since I've turned on an event on like CBS, and there's been like a senior golf tournament on it, where I was just like, oh.
And you still probably, yeah. My point,
I recognized one of the names. I'm like, oh yeah, that was somebody.
Sure.
And then I didn't watch it.
I have said this to Steve Rico, and I'll say it yet again.
Masters, but yeah.
Steve Rico and others, we have so many talented masters. This has never been, everybody thinks it's a slight, and it's not, but they are not, as much as they might be the godfathers, the forefathers, or whatever, every father, my baby's daddy's father, I don't care. There are all these incredible people that are our peers, and some of our Johnny and I's idols and peers and friends. That's not to take away from any of them, but the world wants to watch the best golfers. And the best golfers are going to be in the open division regularly. Some will dip into both. That's fine. But the best golfers will be in the open division, which is what everyone wants to watch. And there's not enough demand. I'm not saying a pro tour or a pro tour type tour doesn't exist. I just don't see the Disc Golf Pro Tour heading it and organizing it. Will there be a senior tour presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield and they're running it? Sure. I'd get on board with that 100%.
I don't see anyone but the Disc Golf Pro Tour running it. Like
I see some other entity that wants to come along and feels like, hey, the open divisions are secured. They're locked in. They're on the Pro Tour. We can make our splash by being the Masters Tour, and we are the Masters Tour presented by Domino's.
See, if you think, let's say 20 years, Paul, Ricky, I mean,
sure,
they'll be, and there'll probably be better players out there at the time than what those two are, in 20 years, when because they're both around.
Eagle will be Masters age. Kevin, every one of our top players, let's just say, is Masters age. We're still not going to watch them.
I don't know.
I'm not saying I don't love those people.
I know, it depends how big the sport
We're not going to watch them.
I don't know.
Just like
there's going to be, depending how big we get, there's going to be a nostalgia factor. There's a senior tour in golf for a reason.
Of course there is.
So,
and who watches it?
Seniors, people.
Damn near no one. Other fellow seniors.
So again, this is your nostalgia factor. These are the people you grew up with. There's a reason why there's was it the Big Three baller basketball thing that has like washed up NBA players in it? It's run by Ice Cube.
The D League or something?
No, it's literally like a 3-on-3 run by Ice Cube, and it's got a bunch of washed up ballers in it.
Okay.
And it was on NBC. Ice Cube started it or something.
How's it going?
I have no
it's
idea.
Probably going to fizzle into nothingness because no one's watching it. And I love the idea. I'm not crapping on the ideas. It's not a viable business entity for.
Then why would anyone run it?
If you're saying for the Pro Tour, it will be a separate entity, and if somebody else, if it happens, it's because somebody else is taking it on.
That makes no sense. That makes zero sense. You're saying if it's not viable, why would anyone run it? Yet you think someone's going to come in and run it, and I think, well, if someone's going to come in and run it, it would probably be the Disc Golf Pro Tour that would run it, because they would just want it under their umbrella. They would be like, oh yeah, I mean, if it's viable at all, if it can make a penny throughout the whole year, Why not have it? Why wouldn't we make that a DGN exclusive? And who knows what we're looking like in 20 years? But like, to me, if the way our sport looks, if someone's going to run it, it's probably going to be the Pro Tour. I don't think an outside entity, I mean, maybe an outside entity will step in and do it. I can't say for sure, but right now, if I'm going to look from my perspective, if it's viable for anybody, it's probably going to be viable for our Pro Tour. That's my thought.
I understand that the resources most closely match that. I get that. I don't see the Pro Tour being interested in it. Therefore, if it's going to happen, I think somebody else is going to have to start it. That's my point.
Maybe.
So
that could be.
And again, I'll go back to Steve Rico. Steve Rico, you didn't care, and pick on him because he's a good friend.
Yep.
You didn't care about the Masters division 5 years ago when you weren't in it. But now, well, should everybody care about Masters because we're seeing even more good Masters get in there? It's like they're not the most elite, and I don't need anyone from the Masters division sending me hate mail about how good you are and how important you are to the sport, because I know that. I know those things. I recognize those things. So it's not a disrespect. It's just the reality of people want to see the best of the best. And yeah, I don't see the Pro Tour jumping on that.
I mean, like someone said, imagine Paul Macbeth in, let's say, 20 years decides he's going to play in Masters, but he's still one of the, like Johnny McRae, still one of the best players in the world. And he just decides, I'm going to play Masters.
And I would say, and I know COVID's been goofy, but I would say put Ken Climo, Barry Schultz, and Johnny McRae, and Yeti, or Patrick Brown, or whomever. You put them all on a Scott Stokely. You put them all on a card and have them go play a local A tier. And then at the exact same time, you have Paul Macbeth and any other three locals, Paul, Ricky, Kevin, and Eagle, and you put them on a card, and you go tell me what those galleries look like.
Oh, I guarantee you it's going to be
it's going to be 20-1.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point. And that's not to say those other four aren't amazing.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's going to be 20-1 in terms of that gallery.
Cool.
That's my whole point.
But that 20, cool. But if that 20-1, but 20-1, what if it's $1 million?
So 200,000?
200,000.
I still don't think the Pro Tour then cares. I think somebody else would have to care about that.
No, I disagree.
If there's $1 million over here, we're focused on,
and the Pro Tour runs this
on
as
developing that $1 million and making that $1 million better and that experience better. Then let's cater to this 200,000.
I'm not saying we cater to them, but you include them. Like you're not giving up one to do the other. You're saying, hey, there's money over there. We'd like that money too. Let's bring them in. If there's an opportunity for a tour, if there's an opportunity to make money, I don't know. Anyway, I think we've hammered this issue in general that we're gonna disagree on.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
Well, that's like saying, why don't we have one global entity that just runs all of basketball? Why isn't the NBA just take over all of college sports and then make college sports part of them?
College is different.
So are pro masters.
Well, they're special too. But no, that's different.
No, okay. All right. Let's. I bet Barry and Schwebe would go on a DGPT Masters division. I bet you they wouldn't. They'd play if one was local, but Schwebe's not going on tour.
No. If it was viable and he could make money, he would. He'd quit his job in a heartbeat. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. If you told Schwebe right now, hey, dude, you can make. I don't know how much he makes.
Could you? What if
$50,000 a year?
What if he could? Touring. What if he was guaranteed to make? Well, we'll use 20-1. Well, that's 5%. Let's use 5-1. What if he was guaranteed to make a fifth? As he performed very well, he was guaranteed to make a fifth of what the people are making on the MPO tour. Does he still do it?
Right now, no. In 20 years, if we see, what's average winning purse, about $5,000 right now?
I think a little less, but sure.
Sure. Okay. And let's just say in 20 years, let's say we're fortunate. It's
doubled.
It's doubled. It's $10,000. You're
and you told Schwebe you can make $2,000
a weekend.
A weekend. I don't think he goes on tour.
I think you're out of your mind.
Mm-mm.
$2,000 a weekend. That's $100,000 a year.
Well, you're not playing every weekend, but
Schwebby is.
that's true. That's true.
But even if you have that, that's $50,000 a weekend to play disc golf. Assuming, and again, Schwebby, hope you stay healthy, all that good stuff. But we're just saying, we're using you as an example.
He's probably listening. Schwebby, chime in. Are you playing?
$50,000 a weekend to play disc golf.
A year, you mean?
Or $50,000 a year to play disc golf. Yeah. Hell yeah, he is. I 100% think he is.
All right. Tom says, I've heard that Masters aged players make up 40% of the PDGA demographic. Maybe they do need to be catered to more. I guess I would believe
that that's the case.
40% of our PDGA. So let's say we have 170,000. Yeah.
Are you older?
Or maybe, yeah, that might be right. However, I would love to know, and it probably could do some quick math, of that 40%, though, how many of them are rated 975 and above?
Oh,
I'm just thinking of like a solid amount, or a solid rating. And I'm not saying we shouldn't cater. I mean, we could also. That's one of my problems when somebody brings up any tour, and I, as kind of a side note to it, it's the same thing we always hear about coverage, in general. Oh man, we should be following the Masters. They're so good. They're our legend. They're the best players of yesteryear. And then the next person comes along and says, "Well, we should be covering like the senior Grandmasters because
they're the founders.
They're the founders of our sport, and they're great for all these reasons. And we really need to highlight and focus that even people that are a little bit older can still be really competitive." Which is you could make that argument, but we should be following them. And then everyone else. The advanced divisions where those are our next pros.
That's the biggest field in a lot of events.
Those are our next pros. That's where our next superstar is coming from, is advanced, because they naturally you play advanced and then you go to pro. We need to be focused on our advanced division. And then, of course, the also inevitable, the juniors. The juniors are the future of the sport. If we don't have juniors playing, we don't have any superstars ever. So we need to focus on the juniors. And then you could also say, well, we need to be focused on the women because they're an underserved and an underrepresented.
Only 6% of our PDGA membership. Think how much more we can get there
if we focus on. So my point isn't to dismiss anyone. My point, though, is that everybody, based on your own opinion, feels like they have a valid case for why your demographic is the most important demographic. It's just funny because as a media person, I hear those often.
I know.
Along with those explanations.
I've heard them myself.
So, we need to be focusing on the Europeans. That's where our next world champion is coming. Well, they can't play this year in our world championships, but that's where the next one's coming from. So, anyway,
let's wrap this up.
Are you sure? Because I was just about to talk about
I'm sure.
disc golf in Norway. No, I'm not. I wanted to give.
Before we wrap it up, we have to give something.
Yeah, you start rolling that up. I want to give another quick shout out. Dan Long, Boyd Brown, First Light. I've given them plenty of shout outs in the past, and they're all rightfully deserving. So Dan and Boyd, Dan specifically, I want to say thank you, man. He helped me get some final stuff wrapped up from the memorial. Something I flat out left something behind. He ended up getting it taken care of, packed up, shipped out. So I just wanted a huge shout out because it was expensive and important. So I appreciate it, Dan.
Here's a quick tip for all you disc collectors out there.
Oh,
check the Innova Factory store late at
Dang
night.
it! Let me go. Oh,
you and I went to the Innova Factory store last week after the podcast.
Just kind of on a whim because I was talking about something else. I think.
Yeah, we were talking about discs that were selling out. Kelvin's discs had sold out, and
that's it because we had Kelvin. Yep.
And we had Kelvin on, and then last week you and I logged on, and there were a bunch of Kelvin black Halo destroyers out there.
So if you like those,
so you bought them all, and you told me that you're actually your whole purpose was just to resell them and flip them like a jerk.
Disc golf rich, baby.
No, no. I thought it was funny because my Halo Black Destroyers came in today, and my wife's like, "Yeah, your discs came in," and I said, "Yeah, it's really weird. I don't think I've bought a disc with actual cash in 2 to 3 years. I played some AM Masters events and was fortunate enough to win some funny money. So I got some discs with funny money. But like to actually buy a disc, it felt strange. I unboxed them. I looked at them. I'm like, yeah, and they feel nice. They're great. They're these cool black on black Halo destroyers. But I was kind of like, I bought discs. I like bought plastic, which I never do. So yeah. So sometimes Innova stocks the stores at very strange times.
Yeah, that's not a normal thing. But
Ray Zerhausen asks, are discs being mailed to Patreon supporters?
Boom, discs.
You should see those in a couple days.
Mm-hmm. All signed, ready to rock and roll.
All signed and ready to go.
Make sure your address is updated.
Yep. Make sure the addresses are updated because I'm going to be pulling it right from Patreon. I got to send that to Terry, but all those are they're all signed. There's going to be 2 waves actually. There's a small secondary wave, but everyone should see theirs. Hopefully, a bunch of you will see it in the next probably week, and then probably a week after that or so. But yeah, it's going to be, as the kids say, what? Fire.
Yeah, straight fire. Straight fire.
Straight fire. No.
Straight fire. No, that's what some kids still say.
And the clothing supporters will be getting their stuff as well with that. We're gonna make a one big shipment. So it works out.
Disc in a box.
It works out well for that. So patreon.com/SmashboxTV, since he brought it up, that is where you can be eligible to get our yearly collector disc. You can be a clothing supporter. We have had 2 new clothing supporters in the last 2 weeks. So shout out to both of you who signed up at the $10 level. Awesome.
Thank you.
The $2 level gets your not necessarily your name, but your username on the credits, Ulysses, just so you know. Or I'm sorry, should I call you Desert Fox 591? I like that name though. It sounds really fancy. So there's a bunch of different levels to support us at, and you can do that at patreon.com/SmashboxTV. We give away a disc every week, and you can be automatically entered into it, or you can be like one of the 2 guys that every week put their name on smashbox.tv/weekly giveaways. Smashbox.tv/weekly giveaways. No, weekly winners is where every once in a while we do winner stuff. That's where we send people.
Okay, sure.
But we don't do it. So it's weekly giveaways. Go ahead and type it. Weekly giveaways.
Giveaways. Look at that.
There it is.
Get on it.
Smashbox.tv/weekly giveaways. And every week I drag the names into our eligibility chart. You don't have to be a Patreon supporter. You should be, though.
Yeah,
definitely.
We let you cheat.
Yeah, otherwise you need to remember to do this every single week, and that's a lot of effort. Seriously, going through that every week, wow. So, Terry, first thing I want to do is thank Jebby's B for a $5 super chat that he just dropped.
Another one?
Another one. Thanks again, fellas.
What?
Keep rocking it. Catch you next week with more hooligan comments.
Oh,
just
man. Spitting hot fire. That's what we do. We're popping off.
Yeah, that's right. We're getting on everyone's bad side. Yeah, because we're rebels without a clue. We are going to be giving something away, Terry. And what number should I draw tonight?
Wow.
202 people eligible tonight.
202. What are we on? Episode 346.
Divide that by 202. You get carry the 1.
Carry 7. Let's 202. 2 sounds like a good number. That's when that's often my default, but
it's an easy default.
It is.
So our second number we're going to generate, they're sorted by first names tonight. Our first number is 143. Our second number is 190. I don't even have to scroll up. It's Tim Lucas. Congratulations, Tim Lucas. You are the Patreon winner tonight. Tim Lucas.
Thank you, Tim. And it looks like, Tim, we do not have your address.
So I do have your email address, though, so I'll give that to Terry.
It's too creepy. We'll be reaching out very soon here to get your mailing address so that we can send you some of this sweet, sweet action.
Matt Schenk says, I just signed back up on Patreon, fellas. Glad to support now that I'm gainfully employed again. Well, I'm happily you're gainfully employed.
Well, now that you are, I don't need to be. So thank you. Because
if everybody who's gainfully employed just gave us $1, we wouldn't have to be gainfully employed. No, my wife doesn't like that I have like 3 different jobs.
I
So
know.
I've got my normal 9 to 5 where I get my insurance from. I've got my Smashbox job, and I'm working on making fantasy disc golf. At least,
Oh, a reality. Because right now it's a fantasy.
no, I'm hopefully working on making it
Fantasy.
like
disc
just
golf.
some sort of income on that. My bad boy, because I put a lot
Fantasies.
of money into that.
Just fantasies.
A lot of money.
Fantasy money.
That's a little creepy now, Terry. Can you please stop it? This isn't an ASMR.
It
chat.
could be.
No, it can't. I promise you it can't.
Fantasy.
So, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight, and thanks to Tim Lucas.
All right, guys. We appreciate it. Thanks to Mo and the regular show. Hope you guys got a little insight there. And then, of course, you get the silly nonsense here tonight. Looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Big weeks ahead with our Silver Series, and then DDO week, and then OTB, and then Goat Hill, I should say, and then OTB, and then U.S. Women's, and so on and so forth. Just madness. We appreciate all of you. And we love our Patreon subscribers more than the non-subscribers. David John, you go snorkeling out there off one of the islands in Thailand. I'm a little bit jellyfish. For Johnny and Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we will see you guys next week for episode 347. We love you. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.